reacting to that, even though it's not really ever fun reacting to a loss. But I find it very interesting that the guy that made the final outs with the double play, it led to a crazy reaction on social media. John, you've always said we like who we like, we don't like who we don't like, so we're going to continue that conversation today. NBA Finals going on, Celtics up 2-0. How are we feeling about that? A lot in store for you on a Fanatic Monday right here. Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is Kincade and Salciunas.
Stars in cities, especially like Philadelphia, they are always on the map, and we should expect more winning out of them.
And we'll go to the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. I am a believer that your best player, I think there is also a responsibility as the team spokesperson.
Kincade and Salciunas. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And a good Monday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salciunas alongside my man, John Kincade. Johnny, good morning.
How you doing this morning?
I'm great. I hope you had a nice weekend.
I did, and I know you did too.
Absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful time down the shore. Helped my dad build a deck.
So you did?
I mean, we're not done yet. There's still a lot to be done.
Though.
Yeah, that was my time. I didn't even get to go on the beach on Saturday. It was actually pretty much of a bummer. My only trip down the shore or on the actual beach on Saturday was helping my mom get Cooper down there.
See, two people that I care about trying to help their dads build decks. Now, one's building a deck, you and your dad.
Yes.
And cousin Ryan, who we had lunch with the other day, and his daughter Molly. His dad did not ask him for help in building a dock. In redoing the dock.
Oh, that's nice.
At their house. And he's been doing it by himself, and he's like, Dad, I want to help you. So Ryan hasn't been able to help Dan. You helping your dad. I love it.
I'm helping out my pop.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, you guys are good sons.
We're trying. All right, so Phillies were in London with the Mets. How did the 10 o'clock start do for you? Did it throw you? I have my Sunday League games at 9 o'clock, so we were watching in the dugout. Whenever we weren't on the field, we were going in the dugout. Somebody had the phone propped up on the fence. Right, a couple other people had the phones on their laps. So, obviously, I couldn't get locked in. I rewatched a lot of the game yesterday. Plus, the game went on for a while. So
it was the longest game. I think it was the longest game of the year. To me, it seemed like the longest game of the year.
Yeah, I was driving home from my game listening to it. It was a long game. But the 10 o'clock start, I love that kind of stuff.
I loved it. I thought it was awesome. It was so cool to set up the TV. We set it up on the back porch, on the screened-in deck, I should say, and sat and had it all ready to go. And then the neighbors came over and were watching too. The girls had blankets. It was so windy, but it was great. It felt like a fun event, and it was a lot of fun to watch. The broadcast sucked, I must say, and I loved Tim Kirchin. I loved him, as you
people
well
just
know.
Don't like Michael Kay.
It was
a lot
not
of people aren't fans
Michael,
of Michael
and
Kay.
I like Michael. Michael's married to one of my college friends. He's a nice guy. I thought that was a bad broadcast. And then I got into it with Doug Glanville on social media, and I love Doug, but I really called him out on something with Gregory Soto, and then he responded to me, and we had a little off-air back and forth
conversation,
but nothing bad. But still just. It was a bad broadcast.
Okay. Well,
if I had been able to sync up Fransky in L.A., I would have done it.
Ultimately, Phils go 1-1 in their two-game series in London with the Mets. They take game 1, 7-2, and then it looks like they're going to win yesterday.
Oh, it did.
Until the Mets put up 3 runs in the top of the 9th. Alvarado, a little shaky. He's been not himself in totality this season. He still has his great electric stuff, but tough spot for him yesterday. He goes out there, allows a leadoff walk, which that's criminal, especially in a save situation.
Why was it a tough spot? He was coming up, one of the best closers in the game.
No, he put himself in a tough spot.
Yeah, he created a problem. He was facing 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, no, he put himself in a tough spot. Yeah,
and he just had a bad day for a guy who has had a great year.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's had a great year. I don't even think twice about worrying about Alvarado.
No, when he walks out there, you feel comfortable.
I felt really good about it. He's facing 7, 8, 9. That little win-a-meter, which I think is just dumb across the thing, was 88-12.
Yeah, I don't believe that stuff.
I don't believe it either.
I ignore that stuff.
A one-run game in an odd situation like that, but I'm not concerned about what Alvarado did.
No, but
I do have a concern or two. But then again,
why?
No, not what Alvarado did, but with the way the game went. Yes.
Ah, jeez. Yeah.
Come on. Oh, don't do an hour.
No, I literally wrote down.
I know. I'm just
I have
saying
a bone
to
to pick with you because I think
Okay.
you're ridiculous.
Okay, that's fine.
I think you're totally ridiculous.
You can be ridiculous.
Yeah. We'll get into that.
can do that.
Your hatred for the manager.
Nah.
All right, but real quick, speaking of hatred. So you have said this multiple times on the air. You've called me out on it, and it's absolutely accurate. That we like who we like and we don't like who we don't like, right?
Yeah.
And
we're going to defend who we like,
Yes.
who we've defended in the past. We will bend over backwards and do mental gymnastics to try to not admit that our position maybe needs to be moved a bit.
I do that a lot of the times with Joel Embiid.
We all do it.
A lot of Eagles
in
fans do it with
certain
Jalen Hurts.
situations.
Yeah.
Nobody's blameless with this. We all do it, especially in this job.
So, like you like, don't like who you don't like. And I think the prime example of don't like who you don't like is Nick Castellanos for a lot of people.
For a lot of people,
There
you're
are
right.
a lot of people that just don't rock with Nick Castellanos unless he's hitting a home run after home run after home run like he did last year in the NLDS and then his first at bat in the NLCS. And then, of course, he went goose egg the rest of the way. But I don't think Philadelphia fans collectively love Nick Castellanos, whether it's the attitude. I
don't think they like him, let alone love him. I don't think they really like him that much.
It's weird. It is a weird relationship. Like when you talk about your favorite Phillies, I think people say Harper first. They say Schwarber first. They go to the daycare, right?
Yes.
I don't know how many people say Castellanos right off the bat, right?
Stupid question.
I don't think many. I don't know anybody that does, other than my wife.
Okay, well, it's for
But
other
there might be
reasons.
other reasons.
But Castellanos has actually started to turn his season around a little bit. He had a home run, by the way, in the first of the 2 games in London, right? Like, he had back-to-back games of the home run, the June 5th game against the Brewers, and then, of course, they had a couple of days off before they went to London and played the Mets. So he's starting to turn his season around. Has he been worth his contract this season? No. Was he worth his contract last year? Absolutely.
Half the year. Yeah,
and then
he
the
was.
year before that, obviously, was a mystery as to what the hell happened to Nick Castellanos, who was a year in, year out. You could pencil him in for hitting around 300, multiple doubles, and he struggled year one. So far in 3 years or 2.5 years of Nick Castellanos, it hasn't necessarily been all that great in terms of the contract.
Okay.
But I don't think it's the worst contract in baseball, right? Like, you and I the other day during a commercial break were looking at like Francisco Lindor's numbers and how much he has changed since going to New York, right?
Now,
Like,
he's come around a little bit recently, but no.
but there are guys that have had much larger fall-offs than Nick Castellanos. Yesterday, he hits the unfortunate game-ending double play. Tremendous play by the catcher, by the way, to
It was
go
wild.
out, grab the ground ball, go back, tag home plate, turn and throw to first base, and throw it on a line. Normally, that ball is going out into the outfield, and then the tying run scores.
It reminded me of Chooch a little bit.
Yes.
And he didn't have to have a double play.
Even
in that
more.
one.
No, he
It was
actually
even-
did more.
It
than
was even
Chooch.
amazing.
He did
Yes.
more than Chooch. He had to go back, tag home, spin, throw. It was a hell of a play by
And
the
I
catcher.
think
for
he
the Mets.
almost forgot. Like when you watch him, there's almost a hesitation. Like, oh, wait a minute, I got to go
gotta
back
make
and
this play.
I got to make the play at home plate first. Like it's like instinctively he was ready to go to first,
Yeah.
and he turns around, gets it in,
Because
and
if
then,
not, it's a tying run.
and then twists his ankle.
Yeah, but
on the play.
immediately I put out a tweet. This is my honest to God reaction. What a kick in the nuts way to lose a game. Like, just damn, that sucks.
Yeah, and I had something similar. I was just like, I said that was a great play to lose a game on.
Yes, I saw your tweet.
Great play to lose a game on, and it, meaning not, and I wasn't being sarcastic. That was a great play, and I don't tend to work on plays like that. I just go, okay,
Yeah, it happens.
it happens.
Or sometimes it doesn't because
But somebody made
that play was
but
really hard.
Somebody making that play was wild. I more tip my cap and say, great play.
So the reaction I get on social media, I'm so sick of Castellanos. Castellanos must go. Tired of Castellanos. Bleep Nick. Nick Castellanos sucks. Dumbass ball player. These are multiple responses that I got on a tweet yesterday from an incredible play that will probably be on SportsCenter today. I imagine it'll be on the top 10 plays today, the way that game ended.
It's one of the best plays you're going to see, defensive plays to end a game all year long.
Especially by a catcher in
Any
that
game.
situation.
Correct.
But Nick Castellanos gets ripped for it. Now, look, it was a terrible swing. He hit it about
It was terrible.
4 feet in front of home plate. It was a bad. All he had to do was lift one of the out. I don't want to say all he had to do, but all he had to do was lift one of the outfield deep enough where it's a sac fly and a tie game. He hit it off the end of the bat. It dribbled. The catcher made a hell of a play. I was actually surprised, and maybe I shouldn't be, by that reaction from a lot of people. My first thought was, damn, that sucks. Your first thought was tip of the cap to the catcher.
What a great play that
Connor,
was.
your first thought to that end of the game was?
Yeah, it sucks.
It sucks.
Exactly,
It's the same
sucks.
thing. That's
it sucks.
just-
The vitriol that Nick Castellanos gets when that happens, when that play happens, I get that there isn't the greatest relationship, it seems like, from Phillies fan to Nick Castellanos, but I don't think that reaction is warranted.
Do you understand?
I really don't.
Do you understand, though, that it's not, as long as you just understand it's not one play that creates the response
I
that you
agree.
get. It's not a lifetime, I'm not going to say a lifetime of plays, but it's an accumulation of frustration with a guy who appears to not correct, since he's been here, doesn't appear to correct anything that he has wrong. He had a 8-week run last year that was freaking amazing in the first half of the season. Amazing. We've seen nothing like that over a 2-month period in his Phillies tenure otherwise. We've seen moments. The Braves hate him. Ask Braves fans about Nick Castellanos.
Yeah, I mean,
they
that
think
NLDS.
they think he's the Joker. Like they can't believe it. They're scared of him. And in this fan base, I don't think enough people give him credit, and at times I do not, for what he has done well. And when he gets on a roll, and it can certainly help you out.
And I still say, I've said this a million times, I know you keep on saying it was only a 2-month period, but it was during a 2-month period when
they needed it.
Rhys Hoskins is out for the season.
Correct.
Bryce Harper's out, which is why I say Nick Castellanos was your team MVP last year, because if he does not have the start that he had, and I know that the record wasn't great, but if he does not have the start that they had, they may have been even deeper in the hole.
They absolutely would have been. But I'll say to you here too, though, is don't spin any differently. It was I'm not spinning a non-fact.
I got you.
It was a 2-month period where he played out of his mind, and this team needed it so much. And then he came back in the second half, and in the second half of the season, he looked lost again.
And then got it back together.
Had a good series against the Marlins and a great series against the Braves. And then he went back to the worst postseason performance in a series.
It was horrible
from a regular against the Diamondbacks.
And so did a lot of other guys in that series.
He set an actual record.
It was bad
with the worst performance.
So our question today, we'd love to hear from you on the text line, phone line 610-632-0975. You can chime in on social media as well. I know people love using the email as well. Who or why? Why do we like who we like and dislike who we dislike? Like, what makes us like a player? What makes us dislike a player? I don't have dislike for Nick Castellanos. I dislike that he's batting .215. Like, damn, I wish he was hitting better than .215. But, like, the attitude thing, I see why it bothers people. It doesn't necessarily bug me. I think my biggest issue with him is to what you have said. When it seems like he's in a slump, I don't know what he's doing to get out of the slump. Like the NLCS, my biggest beef with him, it looked like he tried hitting a home run every single swing, and I can say that because his helmet kept flying off, right? Like that to me is a telltale sign when a guy's pulling out every single time and the helmet is flying off, falling onto the ground, he's catching the helmet. That means he's just swinging for the fences every single pitch, and he was not changing his approach at the plate. But other than that, I don't have a personal beef with Nick Castellanos. I've actually had the chance to talk to him. He seems like a good guy. He's a great dad, all that kind of stuff.
If you got a personal beef with Nick Castellanos, I don't understand. Well, first off, nobody in the fan base has a personal beef with him.
Okay.
And nobody in the media,
fine.
by the way, and nobody in the media should.
Right. Nobody should.
Should you have one. But it's absolutely understandable why somebody would be like, I don't like this guy's act. I don't like his act. I don't like how to me, what's my issue with Nick Castellanos is that he says he doesn't want to do the work that other players do to get out of slumps. He doesn't, and these aren't slumps. These are season-long issues that he's got.
That he's having.
And but for previous years, he's got 2 years before this one, where he had long stretches of the season where he's not lived up to expectations. And I don't like he doesn't want to do the video work. He doesn't want to do that. I have no approach when I come to the plate.
But you know what's amazing?
I just keep it natural.
That approach got him to this contract. Like, that approach worked in Detroit. It worked in Chicago. It worked with the Reds.
Know what it does, though? Is that there is a time in life where everybody can do things different.
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
you may have had great success, and then you don't. And you know what you do? You try something different, and you don't reject it. and you put in the work and you try to do things differently. Nick Castellanos literally just scoffs at it and goes, I go up there without an approach. He literally says it.
Yes.
That's an issue. And you know what? It's not a personal issue. It's a professional issue.
I don't think it's fair to say he's not doing the work.
Yeah, we don't know if he's in the
No, but he says he
cages or
doesn't
whatever.
want to. He says he
doesn't like watching tape.
Yeah,
that
because-
doesn't mean he's not doing the work.
Well, what he's doing then is he's not learning the way that, by the way, the other players in the clubhouse are learning from their
Yeah,
hitting.
he's a unique guy. He's got a weird personality.
And it may work for some guys, it may not. I remember, John, Bryce Harper literally laughing at Gabe Kapler when Gabe Kapler brought out the curveball.
Oh, and
machine.
everybody.
Bryce Harper
laughed.
doesn't take batting practice, right? He doesn't like taking BP.
he hits underneath. He doesn't go out.
Yeah, he doesn't go out
Right.
in the field and hit BP. And I don't know, is that a good thing? Is
And
that
he
a
didn't
bad
like
thing?
the curve. No, he didn't like the curveball
He literally
machine. either.
he scoffed. He laughed.
And you know what? And I can tell you this from talking to two other managers in baseball at the time that happened. Literally conversations. They scoffed at it.
Yeah.
They thought
I
in
was
so
on
in
the
this
air, I laughed at
but
it.
in that situation, Gabe Kapler was the one being scoffed
Okay.
at because he was the one going counter to what you do. I don't care if you like something or don't like something. I don't like watching film. That's not how I learn. Well, when you're not getting the results, at some point then, you got to try it.
So-
change things up and try it. You got to.
Nick
come on.
Castellanos to me is the poster child of you don't like who you don't like. I'm not saying
Exactly.
you, but
No,
I'm
no,
saying
no.
for a lot of Philadelphia fans, he could hit a home run in the game and he'll get his round of applause. But the next time he gets out, it's this guy, he's always getting out.
I'm never going to forget the postseason performances of the last 2 years. I'm never going to forget that guy has that in him.
Yes,
Because on the biggest stage, those stories aren't written without Nick Castellanos.
absolutely.
And so to me, I will always balance out my extreme. I think he's the most frustrating guy on the roster
I think so.
because of the fact that you see him the most often. But I also will always balance it out with, but damn, there is a team that is supposed to be the best team in the National League, or one of them, the last 2 years, that thinks he is a lethal person to face. And I have no doubt in my mind that if they go to the postseason this year and face the Braves, that he'll slit their throats again. I have no doubt.
that'd be nice.
Because for whatever reason, with the Braves, it's a team that he's done well with.
So, what makes you like who you like, and what makes you dislike who you dislike in sports? Would love for you to give some answers at 610-632-0975. I'm a very simple man, and I want to get your answers.
Okay.
Here. I just like talent. Like, that's it. Like, I've said to you guys a million times, I don't need to love the players on my teams. Like, I don't need to be like, wow.
Right.
He seems like a great. Obviously, I would like them to be good people. Like, I don't want them to do horrible things. Like, there have been players in the past, not only here in Philadelphia, but in sports. Like, that's part of the reason why I don't want Miles Bridges on this team. He's a tremendous talent. I don't want Miles Bridges on this team because I think he's a horrible human being. So I just like talent. Like,
So you say talent.
talent's my ultimate thing. I don't need to have vibes, even though I think it's fun. Like, I get it. I get why people have fun with this Phillies team. I like them mainly because they were in the World Series 2 years ago and in the NLCS last year. It wasn't because of how much fun they have, even though that's a beautiful thing. To me,
That's a nice
talent's
byproduct.
To me, talent's like the thing that I only care about.
So you say talent. I say professionalism.
So professionalism.
Number one
Okay.
thing that I respect, a professional approach to your job.
Okay.
I respect that in our industry. I expect that of my electrician.
That's why he respects me so much.
I do.
Connor.
No, I do. No, I'm going to tell you. You and Connor. I love your approach to coming to work every day, and it's a professional approach that I think some people take in life and others do not. A serious approach.
I got you.
I don't think Nick Castellanos is a serious enough about his craft.
Okay.
That's to me. That is. I don't like it when someone just rejects what is common, what is pretty much the industry standard about how to prepare yourself, and just rejects it and then scoffs at it and acts like.
Yeah, but
It
there
doesn't
are some
apply to me.
players. I imagine in any sport there are guys that reject things. Like, I don't know. Joel Embiid doesn't do shoot around half the time, and then he drops 50.
Okay.
Even though players do shoot around.
But he
every
does
single
shoot
day.
around, though. But he does. It's just he chooses when to do it.
Okay.
But he does.
Connor, what makes you like a player? And then we'll get more into the dislikes as well.
Yeah, this is hard for me because I feel like I like everybody. I don't. I really do, though.
I think it's his nature.
It is his nature.
I like everybody, and the only reason I will ever go after a player constantly is if you've proven you flat out stink.
Okay.
Like, that's it. You have to be blatantly not good enough to hold the position you have with a team or as a coach or something like that. And I don't let personality of players affect whether or not I root for it. I never do that. I like everybody to a fault. And then if you stink, I'll root against you. And other than that, I'm going to defend you.
He's honestly, and when you hear that, listeners, Connor Thomas is truly one of the most consistent people that I've ever known.
Yes.
In this industry. What Connor says, he lives.
I just got a tweet. Castellanos must go.
Well, no, some people feel. Yeah, but some people feel that way.
I know people feel that way.
And you know why they do, don't you?
I get it. I get it. John, I get it. I'm not going to fight that one. I get it. But I would love to hear from you. We would love to hear from you. 610-632-0975. Text line, phone line. What makes you like who you like and dislike who you dislike in sports? And Nick Castellanos, he seems to be the poster child of the guy that, hey, I just don't rock with him. I dislike who I dislike. Why is he the poster child? Let's get this conversation going. Also, John and I had an interesting conversation with somebody recently that was surprised by the reaction, or maybe lack thereof, from the Sixers' early playoff elimination. Does watching Boston put things into perspective? Because Boston's up 2-0, and I think they're running away with this series. And I don't see much outrage by it. Has apathy set in? It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Phillies split their series in London.
Monday morning on Kincade Salciunas. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Welcome back to reality. Next 5 days, and then we do it.
Reality, yeah.
Yeah, and then we do it all over again on Friday. Can't wait. All right, so here's what we're starting off with. We'd love to get your reaction, 610-632-0975. Let me know if we have any text messages, Connor. You can text the show. Same number as the call-in number. And then, of course, you can also hit us up on social media as well. What makes us like players that we like, and what makes us dislike players that we dislike? And I use Nick Castellanos as the poster child of the dislike who we dislike, because I watched a incredible play made by the Mets catcher yesterday morning, on that double play ball that ended the game for the Phillies. They were down 1, bottom of the 9th inning. Castellanos' bat shatters. He hits a dribbler. The catcher comes forward, makes the play, goes home, tags home, turns on his butt, fires over to first base.
And the perfect throw.
Perfect throw. And I've seen that play not made perfectly, and it goes in the outfield. And then one run scores to tie it. Maybe the runner that's originally on first base could score from first base and win it. You know, it was a crazy play.
And it was a perfect play.
Yeah, it was a perfect play. And we all, the three of us, collectively as a show, had basically the exact same reaction of, hell of a play, that sucks. We'll see you Tuesday night.
Yeah, I mean, the perspective of 45 and 20 is a beautiful cologne.
Right.
It just
absolutely.
You just go, 45 and 20, 9-game lead in the division. Yeah, that sucks.
It's a good thing. That sucked. It was kicking the nuts.
That's it.
But the reaction that I got on social media was not, oh, that sucks. The reaction I got on social media was basically a hate fest of Nick Castellanos.
What I would tell you is, if Kyle Schwarber did that, if Bryce Harper did that, was at the plate, if almost any other player was at the plate, you wouldn't have gotten those responses.
Yeah, I wouldn't have.
And the thing is, then you have to ask yourself, why?
Right.
And you're asking that question.
And I'm asking that question.
I don't believe you don't know the answer. I don't believe you don't know this answer.
No,
I think you want to get educated on it from people, but I do not believe you know this answer. You just I don't think you want to.
I think I do know the answer. People don't like his attitude.
Correct.
And
they don't like
as
his.
You mentioned his. I don't want to say lack of professionalism, because look, he's a professional baseball player.
He is. But when I hear people when you don't try, here's what I want to know: if things aren't working, you have literally tried everything to get out of it. You have tried every single possible thing. And you know what people who aren't serious in business do? Well, this is the way I've always done it, and this is the way I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to change. See the newspaper industry.
Okay.
They weren't going to change when digital came along, and they were arrogant enough to think, well, we're the newspaper industry. Everybody's going to buy newspapers. So it's never going to, this whole digital stuff isn't going to affect us. And then they refused. They were arrogant, and they've become in big trouble about it. They've now had to adapt, and they're trying to race to adapt. It's the same thing as, I want to know if somebody's struggling. They're doing every single possible thing that they can.
Okay, and
I don't think that's a lot to ask.
Are we sure Alec Boehm's doing that?
I know that Alec Boehm.
Okay, I'm just asking.
No, I do that because
he's actually on a tremendous slump right now.
He is in a tremendous slump right now, and I'm
not ripping Alec Boehm.
No, but they do.
Baseball. I wasn't expecting him to hit
Boehm's in a slump.
360
Correct.
the whole season, but Alec Boehm's in a tremendous slump right now, and I don't see much. I don't want people to give him vitriol, but I don't see any really negative reaction toward Alec Boehm. It's only Nick Castellanos.
That's because Alec Boehm is on pace for 120 RBI.
Okay. Fair.
So, I mean, if you're ripping Alec Boehm when he's on pace for 120 run batted in season, and he's been a better, especially better as of late, even though sometimes he routine plays. He had a couple routine plays this weekend in London, dropped pop-ups and misplayed balls. You're going to get some of that, but you're also going to get those nights where he's spectacular at third base.
Castellanos drove in 106 RBI last year.
He did. He had a great. The first half of last year, he was unbelievable. It was eye-opening. The second half was what we've seen for the rest of his Phillies career.
Okay, so let's talk about it. What we like, why we like what we like, and dislike what we dislike when it comes to specific athletes. And I believe that Nick Castellanos, for a lot of you, or I will say, is the poster child of this conversation for the dislike who we dislike.
You hear what Money Mar says on our YouTube chat. Great job, Haley, getting us
YouTube.
this one. Casty is who he is. I stopped expecting him to change in pivotal moments, the same as Tobias Harris. You can't depend on him, and whatever you get from Casty is gravy anytime you can get it. I think Money Mar's right on the. I think he's right.
I've heard the Castellanos Tobias Harris. Can't think of the word. Comparison. Beat you to it. Comparison a million times.
No, but I think that though is what you. But his summary of it is, I think, fairly succinct. Is you get what you get, and now you've just come to expect it, and you don't expect him anything more.
All right, we'd love your reaction. 610-632-0975. The other thing I want to open up early on in the 6 o'clock hour here. So Boston's up 2-0 in this series. And they look like they're going to run away with it. Look, I can't totally count out Dallas because they've had comebacks in other series already in this current playoff run, and we have seen Boston lose in the past, right? We've seen them choke away Eastern Conference Finals. We've seen them choke away the NBA Finals. But that's really all that we've been able to hold on to. In the years where the Sixers have been eliminated from the playoffs, the only thing we could really hold on to was, well, at least Boston hasn't won. It looks like they might win this time. It looks like they might win the NBA Finals with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Al Horford might win again. And, John, I haven't really seen much negative reaction on social media. And I wonder if that means we're in a weird place with the Sixers. You and I had a very interesting conversation with somebody 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And that person was confused by the reaction to when the Sixers were eliminated by the New York Knicks. That person was
very confused.
Very confused. They thought that there would be more pushback, more outrage, more pitchforks and torches toward the Sixers. Instead, there was a lot of positive reaction, and we kind of did it on the show, right? Like, wow, Embiid, look at what we saw out of Joel Embiid in this playoff series. First time we've been able to really say that.
I saw a different Joel Embiid than I've seen in previous playoff series.
Absolutely.
And so I sort of took that as a win.
Yeah, we saw it out of Tyrese Maxey. First time in his career where he uplifted his game in the postseason.
He did his best postseason performances ever. So, I mean, I looked at that, but I think apathy has set in.
Because they should not have lost that series. I'm going to say it again.
No, they should not have lost
They should not have lost the series to the Knicks. I keep on saying I think they lost 2 of those games in a 6-game series because of lack of effort, right? And that still pisses me off.
No, that is unacceptable.
Am I going to waste energy on June 10th, a month after they got eliminated? No, probably not. But the person we spoke to basically was confused by the lack of the negative reaction.
Was expecting vitriol that they didn't get.
And they didn't get it. So is that apathy setting in, or is it people excited for the future?
What do you think?
I think the reaction was people were excited for the future, but how much future is there? That's what's concerning.
They have 2 guys on the roster. Like, what is the future? You can't even a Sixers fan telling me about the future. You don't know what the damn future is.
Well, we don't know it yet. Correct.
No, we don't even know. So nobody can be. No Sixers fan can say to me, "Well, I'm excited for the future."
But that's what it kind of was.
Because you have no idea what the future is because they don't have a roster. You have no idea what's going to happen.
Right, but the future is around Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey.
Right,
that's the future.
No.
As long as they can get the right pieces, and I know we haven't really seen that, but as long as they can get the right pieces around them, you finally saw Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid uplift their game. And so,
but you just said it.
Yeah, they have.
But we haven't seen that.
No, we haven't seen it.
So I understand. Like, people were telling me they're all excited about the future. I'm going, let me see who the roster is before you tell me you're excited. In other words, you're just being blindly loyal. Oh, yeah, I'm excited about the future. Why? Who are they getting?
So have we reached
who's getting on there?
More blind loyalty than there already has been with the Sixers. Let's face it, I'm guilty of it. There's blind loyalists to the Sixers.
I think the Sixers have more blind loyalists, and I always thought that about the Flyers. Mm-hmm. But the Flyers have sort of, by their own admission, they've fallen off the map. They got to rebuild things and everything.
And people have bought into it.
I think the Sixers have more blind loyalists than anybody. And I don't think it's close.
Is it more blind loyalty or is it apathy? Because I don't see many people going, man, look, this was the year the Sixers were supposed to at least face Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. They were supposed to beat the Knicks. They were supposed to beat either the Pacers or the banged-up Bucks.
They were supposed to be in the Eastern Conference Finals.
This was the easiest path for the Sixers. And now I'm watching Boston up 2-0 to Dallas, 2 wins away from winning the NBA Finals, Oh, by the way, the Sixers and Celtics were very much on the same path in terms. Obviously, the Celtics didn't do a rebuild, but Jaylen Brown was the same draft class as Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum before him. I mean, the Celtics got their young stars, their two core pieces, right around the same time the Sixers got their two core pieces in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and obviously Ben Simmons isn't here anymore. But the Celtics are about to win the NBA Finals, it looks like. And I don't see many people all that bummed out or angry or whatever. And I get it, we can't control anything, and it's Celtics Mavericks. Maybe it's because the series itself isn't all that exciting for people. But Connor, I'll ask you, the lack of, I guess, negative reaction to the Celtics being up 2-0 locally, is that apathy? Is it we've been kicked down too many times? Like, what is it?
Yeah, I think it's complete apathy. I do.
Jeez.
I don't know where else you could kind of be right now. And part of that is not, like, apathy doesn't necessarily mean anger. I think part of it is what you're talking about, John, where we don't know what this roster is going to look like. So it's hard to make a determination one way or another. You can't be like, oh, we'll compete with this team next year, because you don't know most of the guys who are going to be here. But on the negative side, too, and not just the unknown, it's hard to look at what the Sixers have done and say, their path isn't looking harder by the day with the better Boston plays, and Embiid's getting older and the window's getting shorter. And I don't know, man. The Sixers team hasn't given you enough to believe in going forward. They haven't.
Yeah, they haven't. I mean, that's a really good
great
summary.
answer.
That's a good summary.
Yeah.
Because I do believe it's apathy. And anybody who tells me, and I have friends just like you,
Yeah.
that tell me they're so excited about this offseason. And I literally ask, I'm like, why?
I'm excited just because I like playing armchair GM.
Because I think it's going to be like, I think it's going to be one of those things where, now this is going to be so great. It's going to be so exciting to see what they do. And
it is exciting to see what they do.
It's fun to talk about it, but the results is what I care about.
And we'll see what those results are.
And right now, those results look up in the air because the LeBron thing's gone.
Right.
So that's gone. And if the odds are Jimmy Butler through one door, I don't know.
I just wonder, like, if Dallas won the Super Bowl, I don't want to know what Philadelphia is like the day the Dallas Cowboys win their next Super Bowl. We didn't have to experience that, Connor, right? Like, I don't want to know the day of Philadelphia, the day after the Cowboys win the Super Bowl. I don't want to be here, right? If Boston wins the finals, I don't think there's that same reaction. And I wonder if that's because of everything we've gone through with the Sixers. So let's get some on that as well. 610-632-0975. Do you feel a certain type of way that Boston is about to win the NBA Finals? And what makes us like who we like in sports and dislike who we dislike? Nick Castellanos being the poster child for the people that just dislike him for no matter what he does. You just don't like him. It's Kincade and Salciunas. We get to your text reactions next. 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson.
All this baseball team has done this season is win.
by Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit nopaybryant.com for flexible spending options and a new heating and cooling system. And set your alarms now, because coming up at 3 o'clock with the best show ever, we have a huge announcement. So big news coming from Tyrone Johnson of 97.5 The Fanatic. Make sure you're listening. 3 o'clock here on 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. You don't want to miss it. 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
You setting your alarm?
I might.
I might
have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, dude, 3 o'clock. Big. I don't even know what the news is. We were literally talking about this before the show. We don't even know what the news is.
Share it with us. I mean, come on.
It just literally, this is all it says. It's coming up at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Tyrone Johnson's big news from The Fanatic. Make sure you're listening at 3 here on 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. And then we don't know what it is.
And then Connor gives us the big times this going, yeah, I know what it is.
Oh, he knows what it is?
Oh, of course I do.
Oh, okay. So
Connor
Thomas knows
Connor
everything.
gets to know what it is.
It's my job to know things.
But and Scott said he doesn't trust us. He trusts Connor.
Got it. Okay.
So, I mean,
I
it's what
don't
we learned.
necessarily blame him.
I can't either.
Don't necessarily
Can't
blame
either.
him. All right, so I know we have a lot of reaction coming in on the socials, on the
What was
text
that?
line. I am a 90-year-old man.
Seriously.
On the text
Did you say
line.
on the Google?
That was another
Jeez.
day.
Oh, my gosh.
What makes us like who we like and what makes us dislike who we dislike when it comes to sports? And I have this question because I believe Nick Castellanos is the poster child for the dislike who we dislike. I saw him hit a game-ending double play yesterday, but it was more of a tremendous play by the catcher than I would say, even though it was a horrible hit, but, you know, off the end of the bat explodes, double play happens. The double play, I give the catcher more of a nod than I do ripping Nick Castellanos for that situation.
It was a great play.
An amazing play.
It was
But
a great play, but it was a sucky way to lose.
It was a sucky way to lose, which is exactly my reaction on social media. And then the responses were basically a Nick Castellanos hate fest. So, Connor, what do we have on the text line? You can text or call in 610-632-0975.
Chris from Morrisville checks in and says, I think this one is pretty easy. We like guys who we see give it everything they got. We see through the crap and want to see effort. With Nick, it's the nonchalant bravado he carries himself with. Not to say he's not putting in work, but what we see on the field and the fact he hasn't worked on his shortcomings.
Question.
Correct. Well, then
Question.
Wait a minute, though. He says it's not that he hasn't put in the work, but he hasn't worked on his shortcomings. No, it's that he hasn't he hasn't put in the, how about this? It is fair to say he has not put in the traditional work that a Major League Baseball player goes about studying their swing and working at it. The vast majority are in the film room.
Yeah, I don't
they're
think
on digital, they're looking at it on an iPad or whatever.
Right. I don't think it's that he's not working. I think he's not working in the traditional way, and that may not be working for him. So it's not that the effort isn't there.
It's not working for us either.
Well, it is because the baseball team's still winning, but it's not.
No.
It's not that the effort isn't there. He may just not be fixing his problems in the proper way, and that's better than a guy who doesn't want to work.
I think people also don't like the bravado part that he mentioned.
I think that's fair.
That it's very public. Like when he makes that double play, it wasn't the Harpers hitting the bat rack. It wasn't freaking out. It was almost like, all right, and he walked off the field. Right? Did Nick Castellanos show extra emotion when the double play was made?
No, but I don't care about that. Some people are.
But that bothers people.
I don't care about if somebody is the type that attacks the back rack or whatever. You know, like somebody. I don't care about that. I care more about just somebody, again, professional approach. And Connor, I disagree completely. That is, you say it's working for us. I think for the majority of the fan base would not agree with you. It's not working for us. The team is winning, but he and his performance is not working for us. And I think I can speak for at least the majority of the fan base.
Right, but
it's not.
For what time frame? That's the thing.
No, it's not. His tenure as a Philly, it's not working.
Well, he was an all-star last year.
He was an all-star.
He was, and that was
had,
a good. Again, I can point to it. It was a good 2 months, and he was great. No, it was a great 2 months.
He had a stretch in the postseason that's only been equaled by Reggie Jackson.
That's pretty good.
I mentioned that too.
Right,
and it
so
makes it all the more
company to be
frustrating.
in.
No, I understand. I'm just saying, like, where's the bar? Because
The bar is consistency.
okay.
When you're making $20 million a year, the bar is somewhat consistency. Everybody goes into slumps,
right.
but he goes into abysses. There's a big difference. Like I said, if somebody's ripping Alec Boehm right now, I don't know what your DNA is. I haven't seen a lot.
I've seen Reese Hoskins go in abysses.
Oh, I have.
During slumps, and I saw him get a standing ovation for 3 straight days in Philadelphia when he was on another team.
You know why? because everybody knows that he cared because of his.
Well, you can't say that Castellanos doesn't care.
No, but he showed you how he cares.
Okay.
He was always known as one of the hardest workers in the clubhouse. They even brought that up last week. One of the hardest workers on the team. He was known by that. And people would be glad to tell you. And that he was also a guy who was very accountable. Behind a microphone, very accountable.
Now, do you still have that text from Chris?
Yeah, I do.
Can you read it again? And there's a part where now Chris might not. Just read the text again. I'll explain.
I got to pull it up again. Sorry.
I thought you had it.
Well, it was the next one over. This app takes forever to load. Sorry,
Okay.
it's a pain. But yeah, it'll take a second.
All right, so he said
It's the Castellanos of apps.
Yeah.
he basically said that we like players that work through everything and are always playing hard and blah blah blah. I don't think Joel Embiid gets that kind of love. Joel Embiid is always, and look, I get it. There is a frustration and an exhaustion that he is always playing through something, but he's always playing through something. I see guys in the NBA that don't play. Ben Simmons pulls himself out of an NBA season every single year, right? Whereas Joel Embiid, like it or not, you got to admit he is always playing through it.
Yeah, he'll play through it, and his toughness I won't question.
But people
I would also
rip him for it.
But I think people rip him for it because they don't forget too that there were probably 2 to 3 years of his professional career where he didn't have
a long time ago.
Exactly.
A long time
but
ago.
That's on his resume.
Yeah.
And people will not ever forget that there are times, and there are times where you get mopey Embiid, and you get slump shoulders, bad body language, bad I'm out of it mentally Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
You got that as recently as last year's playoffs. We saw it. So I mean, not this past year,
right?
The year before. So I mean, people get fatigue, but the toughness of Joel Embiid, take it elsewhere.
Yeah,
take that elsewhere.
But
You can have other arguments with him,
right?
But take that elsewhere.
But I don't think a lot of people give him credit for it. I really don't think people give him credit for it
because I think they like who they like and they dislike who they dislike.
Absolutely. So I don't even know if Chris is correct about what we like, who we like, why we dislike, because I see Joel Embiid get ripped all the time for playing through major injuries. All right, we reset the show. Coming up next, we get more texts. I know the texts are coming in about this conversation. So you can text the show, call in 610-632-0975. Also, did we miss something? Did we miss something from Jalen Hurts' press conference last week? Are we going to make too much of this coming up next? Or is there something there? I believe it's another not-so-ringing endorsement of the head coach. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatics.
Kincade Salciunas. Good Monday morning, Philadelphia. It's a Fanatic Monday presented by Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit OPayBryant.com for flexible spending options on a new heating and cooling system. Don't forget, coming up at 3 o'clock this afternoon, Tyrone Johnson is a big announcement here on The Fanatic. Make sure you're listening at 3 here on 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
What do you think Tyrone's up to?
I don't know.
And
We'll
you think
find out.
you think he's gone rogue
No.
with his own? So you think this is Tyrone's coming with an announcement that's sanctioned by?
I believe
management?
so. That's my guess.
Maybe
Okay.
he's buying part of the Eagles.
He could be. That's right.
Could he be?
He
Could
could
be.
He could be
Could he be?
selling, buying part.
Where would he get the
He
money?
makes a lot of money here,
Where
right?
would he get the money to do that?
He's a
though?
frugal guy. He saves
Oh, he's
well.
frugal.
Oh,
He
yeah,
saves well.
Absolutely. All right, so
He's got a
what-
great T-shirt collection.
Here's what we're talking about today. What makes us like who we like? What makes us dislike who we dislike when it comes to sports? I saw Nick Castellanos hit into a game-ending double play. It wasn't a tailor-made, 6-4-3, 5-4-3. No, the catcher made an incredible play, running forward to get the ball, turning around, tagging home plate, spinning, throwing, gets
It was unreal.
Castellanos
It
at
was
first.
an unreal play.
Unbelievable play. A tip of the cap. I will never applaud a Mets player, but damn, that was a pretty damn good play. And yet Castellanos gets hate on social media from Phillies fans. Now, look, his swing was horrible.
It was
Right,
terrible.
like,
The whole at bat was terrible.
Yes, it was a bad at-bat.
It was a terrible
bad
at-bat.
swing.
He was swinging at stuff above. He was swinging at stuff shoulder high,
Right.
and multiple times. He was not. And then he golfed a couple. Like
Right.
he was at Top Golf.
But he also hit a home run in the first game of the series. He's actually been hitting the ball pretty well the last, couple of weeks. His average is up to 215. I know 215 is not what you signed him for. Trust me, I get it. But from 199 to 215, that means it's trending upward, John. And that's all you can hope. That's all you would rather him
That's
trend
all
upward.
we can hope for, though. Is
Yes.
215?
Because
Well, what do you want him to do? Hit
no,
1,000 for a month?
I said
no.
trending upward is all that you can hope for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want him
okay.
to get worse. You
No, I
don't
don't want
him
him.
to,
No, I don't want him. I don't want him to get worse.
199.
I would have let the 215 just slide.
Yeah, but we should be happy that it's going up. That means he's hitting the ball. That means he's putting the ball in play. That means he's hitting home runs. That means he's doing more of what you pay him to do.
okay.
I don't think you dislike Nick Castellanos, but the way that you talk about him.
I dislike his approach to his job very much.
I got you.
But I am balanced. I am fair. I give him credit for what for his moments that he's had. And to me, those postseason moments weigh a lot.
Absolutely.
They weigh a lot. So they give him a lot more grace than I might give. If those Braves series hadn't happened 2 years in a row, I would feel completely different about Nick Castellanos, and I would be in the Pitchforks gang with all the people who were texting you.
and that would
but
be,
I,
and
but
that
I
would be,
balance, but
and
I
that's
balance
Tobias
it out.
Harris. Like you're literally like,
Right, but
if he doesn't have the playoff performances, he is Tobias Harris.
correct, because Tobias Harris didn't give us the playoff performance.
Right, but
So
he's
Nick
giving them
Castellanos-
playoff performance.
Nick Castellanos, I give him grace, some of the grace based on that. I'm never going to accept somebody who is not doing well, who refuses to just do the conventional approach to getting better, who never even tries it.
Right.
That's not for me. I don't do that. I don't like it, and I'm never going to like it. So it's not something that I'm ever going to bend on. It's not something that I'm ever going to accept because I know what these people do to be good at their jobs. And if you don't do the basics, I'm going to question that absolutely.
So what makes you like what we like, dislike what we dislike? I told you, I just like talent. That's all. I don't really care about
Right,
personality.
sure,
I don't
absolutely.
care. Like I'm a very simple man. Like if you're a good baseball player, basketball player, football player, hockey player, I'm a happy man. Like I'm glad that you're on my team. That's all I care about. That's why like when I hear people hate specific players across sports, to me it's always jealousy. Like, I wish Sidney Crosby played for the Flyers during his career, right? Like the players that we hate a lot, I wish they were
You
here.
think it's always jealousy?
Yes.
Like a guy you hate? Because there's guys you hate who aren't that good, too.
I get you.
You know what I mean?
But
So I don't think
usually
it's always jealousy.
Usually the top hated players are the best players.
Oh, no question.
Right,
But
like
I think
Sidney
there's sometimes...
Crosby, you mean you wouldn't want Hall of Fame player Sidney Crosby? I bet you there would be a Flyers fan that would say, "Oh, I would never want him on my team." Yes, you would. Yes, you would. But I think a lot of people
Yeah.
do that. Like, I just care about talent.
I get what John's saying, though, right? Like
sometimes players are a-holes.
Like, I hate Daniel Tice so much. I hate his game. I hate his
got
face.
you.
All of this is sports related. I'm sure he's a fine person. But, like, he's not good. That guy drives me insane. So it's not just like jealousy. I don't wish he was on the Sixers. It's not all jealousy.
I know one that you, Brandon Nimmo.
Yeah, I hate that guy, but that's
okay.
very,
You do, but
very
why do you? But you don't hate him
because he's a cornball.
Yeah, but
he sprints down the first baseline.
Well, you don't hate him because you're jealous.
That's personality.
You hate him because you don't like his approach.
I also
don't like how he plays.
I hate him because he's a Met.
Well, that also is a beautiful thing.
His stupidity, sprinting down the first baseline on a walk because that's the right way to play the game, and he plays for the Mets, makes me hate him twofold.
See, is it so? But now you've just, as you've shown yourself, you have your things too, just like everybody does.
I know. I'm not saying that I don't.
But it's not always about jealousy.
No.
You're not jealous. You're not jealous we don't have Brandon Nimmo. I would not want Brandon Nimmo.
No, screw that guy. That guy would be a joke in the city. All right, and the other conversation that we started off, the Celtics are 2 wins away from winning the NBA Finals. And I don't think people are actually all that down. At least that's the sense that I've gotten. You know, John, you know that I sometimes too much read into what people are saying on social media, right?
You do.
I do believe sometimes I read too much into it as well. But look, it's also used for content.
I got you.
And I bring up this topic because of what I've not seen on social media. I have not seen the Sixers fans who I follow on social media be outraged by the Celtics being up 2-0 in the series. Now, I know the Sixers have nothing to do with Boston being up 2-0 over the Dallas Mavericks. I did not think the Sixers would beat the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals had they matched up. But the only thing we were able to hold on to whenever the Sixers would lose is the fact that Boston would eventually lose in the playoffs. And they might win the whole thing.
Oh, no, they look good right now.
And their stars of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown began playing for the Celtics around the same time Embiid and Simmons started playing for the Sixers. And obviously these two franchises went in different directions.
Now, do you believe that it's because Boston has done a better job of building around those two key parts than we have? Or do you believe it's because the guys who are the two key parts have excelled further than our two key guys?
I think building around is a big part of it, but obviously they've excelled more because one of the guys doesn't even play. Ben Simmons doesn't play basketball. He's on a basketball team, but he doesn't play basketball. So, yes, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, that duo has outweighed the duo of Embiid and Ben Simmons.
Yeah, basically what they have in Boston is you have to say Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid were drafted kind of back-to-back, and you drop Joel Embiid to the age that Tyrese Maxey is. Like, imagine that. Those guys the same age, 6 years into tenure in the league. They would be unstoppable.
That's the continuity that you have been looking for, that a lot of people have been looking for. But unfortunately, to your point, I mean,
Tyrese Maxey Savage kind of screwed the pooch on that one. So.
He absolutely did.
And as very wise people, and thankfully we get to talk to some people that are close to the basketball situation, the idea of continuity right now when it applies to Joel Embiid is probably a pipe dream at his age.
Yeah, because there's really no time left.
The clock's ticking.
Yeah,
the clock is ticking.
So how are you feeling that Boston is 2 wins away from the NBA Finals? I know people hate the Celtics. I have not really felt that hatred. I'm starting to. I have not been able to feel it the way you did because the Sixers-Celtics rivalry did not exist when Connor and I were growing up.
Well, when I hear you talk about, when I hear you, I think I'm not sure that it applies to Connor the same way our friend Jamie, it applied to him that you consider the Giants the bigger rival than Dallas.
Yeah.
Always just to me is a fascinating thing.
I wouldn't say the rivalry. I think I hate the Giants more than the Cowboys because I watched the Giants win 2 Super Bowls. I know Eagles-Cowboys. I know Eagles-Cowboys is a bigger rivalry, right?
Yeah.
Like I know Dallas Commanders is actually a bigger rivalry than Dallas-Philly, right? Like, isn't there more history between? Used to be.
That's 25 years old.
Right. I get it.
The thing is, though, that's something you heard. Dallas and Washington. That's something you heard from your dad.
Right.
And
that's the way that it used to be.
And I remember as a child. That's the way it was.
Right, and things change over time.
Changed.
Now, Eagles-Cowboys will always be there, but to me, growing up, I hated the Giants more because here I am as this kid watching my football team go to the NFC Championship game 5 times, and here's Eli Manning and his dumb face winning 2 Super Bowls.
Is that where you are too, Connor?
This is the thing I agree with the absolute most with Andrew Salciunas.
Wow.
Is the fact that the Giants-Eagles rivalry is worse than the It's always Dallas. It's not even remotely close. Eagles-Dallas blows every other rivalry in the city out of the water so far. The Giants are not even a thought to me.
So you don't agree with him?
Not
you
at
said
all.
agree. He did say agree,
He did
right?
say agree. You
Did I
stumbled.
say
You
agree?
said
I thought
agree,
it was
yeah.
the drugs.
You don't. Yeah, I was going to say you do not agree.
No,
do
you're
not
not
agree.
agree.
You're smart. You're smart.
That's such a good
But then
point,
the team that I hate the most out of all sports is the Mets. Like, Boston's not even in the top 3 for me.
I love that you hate the Mets that much because it shows that you were raised right.
Absolutely.
It shows that you were raised right. Did you learn that from Papa?
No, well, part of it, but I also was going to games during that thick of the rivalry, the
Okay.
06, 07, 08 days. But
So
what-
that was your birth to Phillies baseball,
Right.
to being into rivalries.
But basically, what I'm trying to get at is I don't see the outrage that I thought I would see of Boston being up 2-0. So I also want to know, do you feel a certain type of way that Boston's 2 wins away from the NBA Finals and the Sixers had a similar result, actually worse this time, and somebody that we spoke to is surprised that there wasn't more backlash by Sixers fans when the Sixers lost in the first round to the New York Knicks? You can text in or call in at 610-632-0975. In a few minutes, I'm going to play some audio from Jalen Hurts for you. I think we missed something last week, John.
We did.
But let's go to the text line first. What do we got coming in, Connor?
We have a bunch of people checking in on this Castellanos conversation.
Okay.
So let's go. Vashon in Coatesville says, simple, 3-word text, contract to production. And I imagine that means the level of contract to the level of production you produce is how you decide who you like.
I think that's very fair too.
My dad and I, so I was down the shore this weekend, and my dad was overly joyed by the Bryce Harper soccer slide to a Creed song. Somebody edited it to a Creed song. My
Love
dad really likes Creed. It's
Your dad really
I
likes.
really like your dad now.
yeah,
Wait a minute, wait.
Yeah, dude, it was a weird childhood.
Your
That's
dad
awesome.
really-
My dad's a big Creed guy. He wanted
Really?
a Creed song to be the first dance with him and my sister. Like it was with arms wide open. It was a strange childhood. But he loved that, right? But we started talking about Bryce Harper. And he goes, man, that guy's been worth every single penny. I don't think anybody can disagree that Bryce Harper has been worth every single penny.
What an investment.
Nick Castellanos has not been.
Correct. No, he hasn't even
And
been
he's
close.
not been close in terms of the contract.
But I'll ask this of
Okay.
our resident anti-Garrett Stubbs guy. Now, you clearly, and I understand the comments from last year, and I understand he has
Okay.
not been a great baseball player by any stretch. But you do go after Stubbs more than I think the average person.
I
and
do.
Stubbs
he
gets paid
he gets
$7.
paid nothing.
Yeah,
They
he's
do,
minimum
but
wage.
once again is, and one thing I've learned from working for pro sports teams, being around them, covering them, talking about them is your spokesman of your team, the person who goes out there and says stuff, should not be Paul Reed, should not be Garrett Stubbs.
Okay.
They should be seen and not heard.
Totally get that.
And to me, that is something that will always bother me because we don't get the production and we don't get common sense. And I will put that Arizona series for last year for Stubbs to do that after we had just seen Arcia put this whole town into an absolute fever over someone mocking the opposition. We had one of our own do it, and we had literally the last guy on the roster taunting the opposition. That to me, I'll never get over.
He got into a game.
I'll never get.
Taiwan Walker might have been the last guy.
I
on the
will never
roster.
get over to the lack of common sense that took.
Okay. And I think that's fair.
I don't know that it's fair of me though.
No,
I won't let it go.
Okay.
I don't know that I wouldn't depict that as being fair.
Like, I'm not about to rip Paul
but
Reed
he's
next
still,
year.
But he's still hitting 170, and he's
back.
mediocre.
He's the-
Mediocre as grits.
That's why he's a backup catcher.
Yes,
He's not.
No.
A
You
starting
can get a backup catcher that can
Can you,
also
though?
hit you the guys who can hit you 240.
Are there
Guy
a
who
lot
can
of
hit you-
backup catchers hitting 240?
They could give something like that.
Chris Coase hit 300 one year, Britt.
Yeah,
Oh, jeez.
in what, 2000 and whatever?
Oh, okay. So it was easier back then.
Yes, it was.
Okay,
Yes,
now-
it was. Stop it.
easier back
Stop
then.
it.
All
Stop
right,
defending Chris Coase.
Give me one more text, and then I want to play this Jalen Hurts audio for you.
All right, Blaine from Kentucky checks in, and he says, I love Philly players that put in the work and leave it all on the line every play, every game. Those are the players that I love. I don't dislike many of our players unless they play bad and also don't care.
All right, but then again, this is when I say maybe for him, but baloney, because Joel Embiid is a guy that I believe gives it his all. What?
No, I mean, I believe.
Have you ever seen him not give it his all?
Yes. I absolutely have.
I was
and Joel Embiid
because his face was broken or his knee was shattered.
I've seen Joel
or,
Embiid check himself mentally out of games. I've seen Joel Embiid not be in his career. You're talking about. You said, have you ever seen? I've seen a guy who wasn't a professional about his approach to his game for years.
Did you see
career.
it this year?
No.
Okay.
See, now you're changing the question.
No. John's absolutely right.
You're changing the question.
There was a stretch where they had to send him home for a road trip because
he wasn't being a
right.
professional.
Like, now, that is a distant memory to some people.
Very
and
distant.
to some people, that will always be part of the equation.
And again, that is me saying, same thing with the Stubbs thing, but to a whole different degree. That part of it, I refuse to tell the whole story, to not tell the whole story. Every single thing needs to be told. And you said, have you ever seen Joel Embiid not give his all?
Have you seen
Yes.
it recently?
No. I think Joel Embiid has done a great job of maturing. It just came really late in his career.
Okay.
Surprising.
I think that happens late for a lot of people. And I do believe the organization is at fault for that.
Okay.
I do. I think they'd let him do whatever he wanted. All right. Jalen Hurts last week. We played a couple clips from Jalen last week, and it was about the offense. 95% new.
Absolutely.
Right? We celebrated
I was celebrating
the fact that it wasn't 95% the same. We celebrated as 95% new. It kind of sounded like there was the built-in excuse of, another new voice, blah, blah, which I don't need to hear that out of Jalen Hurts. I don't want to hear that out of Eagles fans. I don't want any built-in excuses. I don't want any of that, right?
Correct.
But there was a clip that we didn't play last week.
We didn't play it, and it is an error on our part, you and I.
And I think we missed something.
We did.
And I wonder if we're going to overreact to this or if this is a nothing story. So we will also allow the audience to dictate that. Connor, here was Jalen Hurts, if you could play it for us. He was asked, you'll hear the question. He was asked about, Sirianni being open to changing the offense. And we left in all the pregnant pauses. Take a listen.
What have you noticed about, Nick being open-minded to change up the offense like he has? I mean, what does that say about him?
I mean, it's a great question. I don't know that I know the answer to it.
Well, what have you seen? What have you seen from him as far as doing that?
I think he's just, he's been great, and the messages he's delivering to the team. He's trying to be very intentional in what he's saying, and yeah.
Did that sound like a ringing endorsement of his head coach?
No, but he already has done that passive-aggressive stuff over and over again, so I've just come to expect it. He's passive-aggressive when it comes to Nick Sirianni.
Is that a good thing?
No, it's bad.
No, it's bad.
But
that's not a good thing.
But I think the question sucked. I think the question absolutely sucked.
Why do you think the question sucked?
What do you think that says about him? What do you think that says about the head coach?
I can answer that.
I can answer
easily.
that question.
Okay. What do you think it says about him?
Well, most coaches, they're stern. They don't want to change things. I've played with coaches that believe in their scheme and they don't believe in other schemes. And Nick Sirianni's open to adapting, and I think that's good.
And he says, "I don't know the answer to that question yet. I have no problem. With his answer the way he articulated it."
John, he could have not answered the question by answering it by saying, "Hey, coach has been great this year. Team's in a good place." Like he could have just.
And you know what we do? We rip athletes when they give us the politically correct answer and don't answer what they really feel. And I'm guilty of that as well as everybody, that we rip on athletes. And also at times there's times where you just say he wanted to say something different. He doesn't feel that way about Nick Sirianni. He doesn't feel that way. He does, and you know what, though? He doesn't know what it says about Nick Sirianni because I think he knows the truth. I think he knows Nick Sirianni had no choice. I think he knows. He knows that Nick Sirianni had no choice. He knows that they brought in Kellen Moore and said, "Nick, this is Kellen Moore's offense.
Right.
Back off." So I don't think he wants to throw Nick under the bus and say, well, it's not like Nick had a choice.
Right.
He could answer it honestly. And if Jalen Hurts answered that question honestly, whether it's by his own feelings on Nick Sirianni or whether he takes us behind the scenes and says, Nick Sirianni he's been deballed here by Kellen Moore coming in. He's in charge. Everybody would have ripped him.
And look, I don't think I'm not saying Jalen Hurts has to fix his relationship with Nick Sirianni. I don't even know if it's a broken relationship.
We know it is.
Because we've been told it needed to be nurtured.
Jeff McClain, among others, has said that it had to be nurtured, right?
Right, nurtured. That was the word that he used.
Nurtured.
I just found that answer to be strange. Connor, I was looking at you watching our audio file that we have, Vox Pro, and you're watching as the pregnant pauses are happening.
Right.
That didn't sound like a ring endorsement at all.
No, not at all. sounds like there's a lack of faith there. And from the fan base perspective, you can totally understand that. And from the organizational perspective, it sounds like they've kind of addressed it already.
It's not great when the franchise quarterback may have a lack of faith in the head coach.
And
Your coach is in limbo.
I think he does. And I fully understand where he's coming from.
All right, so you heard the clip. You heard our thoughts on it. Do you believe that was just Jalen Hurts not really answering a question, or do you believe that that wasn't such a ringing endorsement and there might still be some sort of disconnect between coach and player? And the reason why I think he laughed, remember, you heard him chuckle. Very reminiscent.
It was anxious.
Of the Bryce Harper curveball machine chuckle. There's a reason why I brought up Bryce and Gabe Kapler earlier. The chuckle. Remember, there was a story that came out before the playoff game last year about how Jalen Hurts didn't even know which offense it was, and he was upset that they weren't going to him more. What are your thoughts on that clip? Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Phils head backstage.
Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. So, the most recent thing we just got into, Jalen Hurts last week. We missed this. Shame on us. We didn't play it.
Yes, this is one it is shame on us.
There was another chance for Jalen Hurts to endorse his head coach a little bit. And clearly, I think we're all kind of waiting for that endorsement to happen. We may not ever get it. Let's play it one more time, and then I would love to get some reaction on the phone line, text line, 610-632-0975, whether or not it would be an overreaction to even react to this clip, or if you think there's something there, because let's face it, I think there is still something there. When it has been talked about by reporters, Jeff McClain himself, and we'll talk to him tomorrow. We talk to him every single Tuesday at 8:10. We'll ask Jeff about it tomorrow. Jeff told us that the relationship between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni needs to be nurtured. I remember the article from Tim McManus the day of the playoff game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that Jalen Hurts was unhappy with the direction of the offense, had been unhappy with the direction of the offense, and had addressed his dislike of the direction of the offense, and obviously the head coach didn't do anything. So when the reporter asks, hey, how do you feel about Nick being open-minded to the change of the offense, when clearly he wasn't open-minded last year in the playoffs or at the end of the regular season when things were going in the toilet for the Eagles, I'm sure Jalen Hurts does feel a certain type of way. Let's hear the clip one more time. Let's get to the text line after that.
What have you noticed about, Nick being open-minded to change up the offense like he has? I mean, what does that say about him?
I mean, it's a great question. I don't know that I know the answer to it.
Well, what have you seen? What have you seen from him as far as doing that?
I think he's just, he's been great, and the messages he's delivering to the team. He's trying to be very intentional in what he's saying, and yeah.
I mean, what is that?
Well,
What is that answer?
Well, it's one too many ums. It is for one thing.
Well, because he's thinking about what to say.
I mean, it just says he doesn't know how to answer it, and I absolutely understand where he's coming from.
Connor?
Because he knows behind the scenes what really happened.
Yes, he does.
And if he answered it honestly and said, yeah, Nick got told, get the hell out of the offensive game plan room. If he answered that, we'd kill him for it. And
Connor, you said you could answer that question.
Yeah.
What would you're Jalen Hurts. What's your answer?
I think Coach Sirianni and Coach Moore are doing a really good job of integrating the offense together. I have a lot of faith in the system to work this year, and I love the weapons we have to implement it.
Wow, this guy is professional over there.
That's all we need.
But what does it say about him? You're saying it means like it's a... The question was asked is, what does this say about Nick Sirianni? That's not a... I'm sorry. That's not a good question.
Okay, whether you like the question or not, whether you would have passed or failed him at TU.
No, I'm saying is that's it's not a good question. It's the foundation of it. I think there's too many. I literally will play for my students press conferences that we have here in this city where we have reporters who make statements and then ask coaches and players to respond to their statements, which is not how it's supposed to be done. I don't like the question. But so, I think it threw Jalen off a little bit. I'm going to give him the grace.
Okay.
Even though I did chuckle at his...
John, you're giving him the grace even though he's had multiple chances to throw a flower towards Sirianni,
but I didn't give him grace about those because those were simple and
all right, so
easy to do.
But this
wasn't
another
simple
chance.
and easy.
I don't care if it was simple or easy. It was a question about Nick Sirianni.
But I heard the question, and if I was being asked the question, I would have gone, what?
Right.
In my head, I would have been going, what?
Yeah.
And then I would have absolutely...
You also don't have a PR guy that's there helping you and trying to say, hey, this might be coming your way.
I got to tell you, and I know the Eagles have a great PR staff.
They absolutely do.
But I am not convinced that they do a bang-up job.
We've talked about the preparation.
They have not helped out Nick Sirianni a lot.
No,
Nick hasn't listened.
Sirianni just last week, we played like a minute and a half long clip, and really we only needed 15 seconds of it. But he's got the word vomit or the word out or whatever. Now, what do we have on the text line about this, Connor? I know we also have the Castellanos questions that we'll get into as well. You can text and call in 610-632-0975.
Faye from Pottstown checks in and says, I could not agree more with John on this. I've heard this audio over and over again, and the subsequent debates around it. The question and even the follow-up were terrible, and I think he didn't know how to answer, hence all the pauses. I do believe there are underlying issues there, but it's their history that indicates that, not the answer to this question.
I'm not just going to agree because the person agrees with me, but that's what I think it is. I think it's the idea is that I don't believe he was trying to be a jackass. Like, I don't think he was trying to be rude to Nick.
No, I don't think so either.
But I don't think he knows how to say something nice about the guy.
Right, and that tells you that there's still maybe an issue between the two of them.
I believe there is.
And that's what I'm basically getting at here. Like, that's why I'm asking, are we overreacting to it? Or is this a legitimate concern to hear another chance for the franchise quarterback to have the back of the coach? Because the coach has had the back of his. We know that. The Seattle thing, we know that the coach had Jalen Hurts' back.
Nick Sirianni has been a kinder individual to Jalen Hurts than Jalen Hurts has been to Nick Sirianni.
At least publicly.
It's documented. Yeah, it is documented and it is known. Nick Sirianni was willing to look like a buffoon after that Seattle game and take the bullet for him and A.J. Brown. And to this day, Jalen Hurts still will not own that.
No.
Will not own what A.J. Brown owned and what everybody now knows publicly. And he won't own it. He let Nick Sirianni take the bullet for him, and he didn't feel the need to give him a lifeline. I think it sucks. I think that part of it really sucks.
I think so, too. Let's go to Mike in Pennsauken. What up, Mike?
Yes, I was just calling in to the question. I believe he was just caught off guard. Like, it's easy for whoever just answered the question to come up with an answer or intelligent answer like y'all just answered, but I just believe he was caught off guard.
But, Mike, he gets asked questions. I mean, it is part of his job, right? Being the franchise quarterback, it's mandated. You have like 2 press conferences a week during the regular season. He's got to expect all these questions, right? And I would assume, Mike, if we played the whole press conference, the question before that did not involve Nick Sirianni, I bet you he gave a good answer. And I bet you the question after that didn't involve Nick Sirianni, I bet you he gave a good answer.
Yeah, probably so. But
I don't think he gave good answers.
Well, no, but this is from the same press conference that we played clips of last week.
Yeah, but I don't think he gave good answers.
I think the answer was horrible. I think the answer was horrible, but I just think he just got caught off guard with it.
Okay.
Like, he been asked it so many times. I don't think he expected it because it's a new season to be asked it again. So I believe he's just caught off guard. He gave a terrible answer, and I think we should just move on.
All right, Mike, I appreciate the call. Now, you said you don't think he gave good answers to any of the questions.
No, I'm going to tell you that 75% of the answers that Jalen Hurts has given in his Eagles career aren't good answers.
But I'm going to say this. At least he's given answers. There wasn't an answer in that question.
No, because I think but again, I'm going to tell you, and you and I are going to disagree on it. I think the question sucks.
You thought, okay.
I think the question sucks. What does it say about a person? What does it say about the head coach?
Yeah, but you hear,
it's just weird.
What's the vibe? You hear these things all the time.
And guess what? There's nothing worse.
Okay.
There's nothing worse than the question.
You at least hear answers.
But there's nothing worse than how did it feel?
I know, it sucks.
How does it feel? Asking somebody how does it feel is as bad as get inside someone's head. What does it say? What does it say about Andrew Salciunas that what? Ask Andrew Salciunas that question.
Okay.
Well, ask me another question. Are you impressed with the way that Nick and Kellen are working together? Perfectly valid question. Are you impressed with what you've seen, the synergy between Nick and Kellen? I guarantee you he would have had an answer.
Yeah, here's the thing. And, John, I totally get what you're saying. But it was somewhat of an open-ended question to the point where it's more on Jalen Hurts, and it shouldn't have to be. Like, it should be on the reporter to lead the player where they want them to go to answer the question. But to give Jalen Hurts basically free reign to kind of say something nice about Nick Sirianni.
Something, anything.
And it wasn't a negative response, but
nothing.
you got a neutral response.
Yeah.
It's just.
I think he has nothing. I honestly, and it does concern me.
Yeah.
That their relationship is so. That tells me that's a bad relationship.
Oh, let's go to this. This is interesting take. Let's go to Ben on the cell. What's up, Ben?
Hey, guys. Sorry I had to take you off the speaker.
Yeah, it's all right.
No problem, Ben.
Huge fan, guys. Huge fan, guys.
Thank
John,
you.
real quick, I wanted to say something. You need to know more of the the battle that you went through last year, man, was a true inspiration to people, and there's a lot of people out there that it impacted in a very good way. So I think you should know that, man. I really
Thank
do.
you, brother, and I really appreciate it. And I thank all my doctors and nurses and all the listeners and everybody who supported me and my family, too. So good job. I appreciate that, Ben.
Yeah, no problem. But, the thing is, he's always been frustrating with his press conferences because he's like a politician where, like, he's always known how to talk around things and over things and through things. So the fact that he just completely stumbled across his words and, like, it's like they asked him a question in a different language. Like, and the fact that he didn't even think that question was going to, like, be prepared for a question like that.
And I will tell you, Ben, I'll take you behind the curtain, though. And Andrew brought this up earlier. He should have been, and honestly, that's a dropped ball most likely, a drop ball by him not being prepped for that interview session well.
Yeah, I completely get that. I think it is very telling in reference to his and Nick's relationship. I really do.
We've talked about this a million times, Ben, and we appreciate the call, man. Thanks for the kind words for John. That was awesome.
Nice.
Jalen Hurts from the school of Bama, right? The school of Saban when it comes to answering questions.
They have just Saban indoctrinates his players into this is an adversarial relationship that you're entering into. Mm-hmm. Don't give them anything.
So he may say nothing, but at least he'll give an answer, right? He didn't give an answer.
No, he didn't. I think honestly, I do not think he's great on his feet on a football field. He's terrible on his feet at a press conference.
But at least he answers questions. Right. He didn't answer. He had ummed and hud and pregnant pauses. Like, that wasn't a great response. And that's another non-ringing endorsement of the head coach. Let's get more reaction on this. You can text in, call in, 610-632-0975. More on the original conversation as well. What makes you like a player? What makes you dislike a player? I believe Nick Castellanos is the poster child for a lot of you of the guy that you dislike, just to dislike. And coming up next, alongside your reaction, I have a bone to pick with John Kincade. Shocker.
I knew you would.
Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now is the time to become a fanatic.
I got a bone to pick with you, Johnny.
I knew you would.
And we're going to get
Because
back
you already
to...
boxed yourself into a corner, so go on.
Okay.
Go on.
We're going to get more of your action on the Nick Castellanos conversation. Or it's not a Nick Castellanos conversation. He just kind of was the genesis of it. What makes you like or dislike an athlete? Why is... And you always say, we like who we like, we dislike who we dislike.
And we will bend over backwards to...
For those, like, you know, if you like a certain player, you will always try to make excuses for him. We all do
Or
it.
manager.
We all do it. Or manager.
Correct.
And then the other conversation, Jalen Hurts not really giving a ringing endorsement on Nick Sirianni.
A ringing endorsement.
And whether or not that's the cause for concern, or are we reading too much into it? Now, you bring up the manager.
Yes.
Connor, I'm gonna need your help on this one.
Okay.
Because I might lose my marbles.
Okay.
So you sent a text over the weekend, and it was a funny text because it was in response to what we were talking about last week. How I said we should not be critical of the Phillies until, what was the date? July 18th?
You said July 18th. I haven't marked on the calendar.
July 18th.
So we remember to get back into that. So you're abiding by this.
Yesterday at noon, 11:59 a.m. to be exact, because the Phillies were playing at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
You texted us, it's a shame we aren't allowed to criticize that managerial strategy with all the relief pitchers available. Most very rested.
By the way, but right as it's not even the second hit hadn't even happened yet. The second hit had not even happened yet.
Yep. Look, it did not work out for Rob Thomson
That
in
is
that
correct.
situation. He then pushed all the right buttons again after that until Jose Alvarado blew the
and
save.
there's nothing you can do about that.
And you're not ripping
if
Rob
you're ripping
Thomson. Right.
if you're ripping Alvarado or Thompson
Or Rob Thomson.
for that,
No.
you put your closer on the mound with a 1-run lead, bottom line.
Right.
And whatever happens, it happens.
Absolutely.
And I would have let him do the same thing, by the way. I wouldn't have yanked Alvarado. Like, I wouldn't have tried to yank Alvarado out.
No, at that point, yeah,
I'm letting him try to.
Especially because you know he can strike out a batter.
Correct, exactly.
So, you know.
Exactly.
And they got into that spot. Remember, his bases loaded, and he strikes out Lindor. Now he just needed a double play to
Absolutely.
end the inning, right?
And there was there was the freaky bounce with Bohm and everything.
So
I'm going to ask you. No, I'm going to just flat out ask you. You don't think you should question the idea that you go to Soto in a high leverage situation with runners on second and third in a 3-0 game? You go to your worst bullpen option when you've got Strahm, Alvarado, Hoffman. You're not going to Alvarado at that point. You got Strahm, you got Hoffman, you got Ruiz. You got every option is literally better. Like, that's not available to be questioned or critiqued.
Could be questioned.
Could be.
I just think
Wait a minute. Could be?
Hold on. In totality, because the Phillies are, what's the record? 45-20 this season?
No. That we're not discussing the whole season. We're discussing that decision. That decision can't be critiqued because I'm going to tell you, you will be on a freaking island if you don't have that thing can be critiqued. He had every option in front of him. He went into the ice cream shop, had every option, and he decided to try the peanut butter poo-poo option.
Well,
which is the worst on the, which is the worst.
Disrespectful to a Major League Baseball player, Gregory Soto. Yeah.
Strahm, Hoffman, Alvarado,
Ruiz. He could have done any one of the number of them.
They all threw in the game. So he did end up going to them.
No. At that point in that game, Connor, you are, seriously, if either one of you are debating this,
I'm absolutely debating this.
I'm going to tell you are nonsensical.
No.
And I'm not really believing that.
You got to hear me out.
Okay.
Like, he went to those guys. He just didn't use them there.
Why wouldn't you have used Strahm in a situation where he has been the best reliever in baseball?
I got you. So you use Strahm there. You still need to get the same number of outs you had to get. So Soto throws at some point in that game.
No, he wouldn't have necessarily. Strahm, he gets the last out of the 6th. Strahm pitches the 7th then.
How do you know he goes back out?
Because that is what he would have done. He would have done what he did with Orion Kirkering the other day. Strahm was more than rested enough for it. He would have then let Strahm pitch the 7th. I would have felt very good about Strahm. By the way, when Strahm came in, he shut down that 7th inning, that 6th inning, and got the strikeout.
Right. So it's not that like Rob Thomson doesn't realize that Strahm's a good bullpen pitcher, a really good bullpen pitcher. Same with Hoffman, same with Alvarado. He used all of those guys in high leverage situations yesterday. The main critique, I think, should be that Gregory Soto has not been nearly as good as you've expected him to be his whole time here. And Rob Thomson probably should have gone with a different pitcher. But
and that's exactly the point. And it's not a crucifixion of Rob
hold
Thomson,
on.
but that is a bad
The reason
move.
why I have the bone to pick with you is because this is not the first time you have complained about Rob Thomson and his handling of the bullpen. You are very critical of it. Like, it is something that you're very critical
because
of.
the NLCS last year and the World Series last year, the year before, you could argue, were lost because of decisions he made handling the bullpen.
I can also say, and look, they're the guys that are throwing the baseball, so they get probably the majority of the credit.
Oh, no question.
But
And blame.
But Rob Thomson is putting Matt Strahm in the correct situations for him to be having an ERA of .69.
He is.
Jeff Hoffman, .93. Orion Kirkering, 1.19.
So
Jose Ruiz, 1.88. You have 4 guys in your bullpen that are arms that you use a lot.
And in that
under
situation,
ERAs
you're
of
telling
2.
me Soto would have been your pick.
He probably would not have been my pick, but
Would he
handled.
have been one of your top 3 picks?
No, probably not.
Well, then that's all
But
I'm
my
saying.
bone to pick with you is that every time he does something when it comes to the bullpen, you are quick to react.
Yes, because that is what he has shown is an Achilles heel with him as a manager.
An Achilles heel that has gotten him to a World Series and an NLCS.
And both of them could have, you can argue, were lost on those decisions.
But he also pushed all the right buttons to get to those positions.
Well, all we're discussing is that move yesterday's game.
Okay.
And it was a dumb move. He wouldn't have been one of your top 3 choices.
I think you're too harsh on Rob Thomson.
That could be. No, that could be fair.
I think you are overly harsh on Rob Thomson.
And I'm also very complimentary on many things that he does.
Yeah, of course. All right, so coming up next, we have today's headlines with Connor Thomas. After that, I need to rip athletes. And not from a talent perspective, but from a human perspective, because some guys think they need violins behind them. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
a tough day for
I wrote it down right on here.
Right, 8 o'clock, man. It's the way I want to start the hour.
You got it. You got it. You're
all
back.
right, we have today's headlines with Connor Thomas coming up in 5 minutes. And then at 8:10, I have to rip athletes who just, their lives are so much different than ours that they think like things are so much harder than what they really are. And we'll get into that in about 10 minutes because I can't wait. Like I
want to hear this.
And it's Mets players, so it's even more fun to rip the Mets players for saying it. But I'm sure some Phillies players felt the same way. And all I want to do is remind you guys, you athletes, that you have a lot of great things for you. Sports has provided you with the life that a lot of us can't live, and you should just be happy with the opportunities that you have. There's your teaser for 8:10. But
I love that.
But real quick, speaking of have a safe trip into work today, I noticed something yesterday.
What was that?
So Christy and I, and me and Cooper, we were all down the shore. Christy had a bachelorette party in Brigantine, so I just went down in Brigantine too. Why not? And then we all drove back up yesterday. Normally, driving home from the Jersey Shore at 5 o'clock in the afternoon is hell, right?
On a 5 o'clock on a Sunday.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's usually like,
Used to be
it's,
awful.
it's almost worse than actually driving down the shore on a Friday. I got home in an hour, normal time.
Okay, well, what was it caused by? What do you believe?
It's I'm saying an hour is my normal distance. I hit no traffic.
Well, no, but what was the cause of
I'm
that?
guessing people will maybe work remotely on Mondays that they just stay down the shore. Or is the day trip dying? Like, is the day trip down the shore? Like, it was a beautiful weekend.
It was, but the thing is, like you said, beautiful day. And I told you, and I told Connor, because you guys had
Down up here it wasn't.
In Westchester
Okay,
yesterday.
so then even more for you to go down the shore.
No, because you don't, I'm not, when you wake up and you see, so it was not a nice day yesterday.
Okay.
And I think people stayed home to watch.
Mr. Weather app
I think
over
people
here.
stayed home to watch the Phillies.
That could be true.
And then the Phillies game got over at like 2 o'clock, so nobody was going to be.
I just find it amazing. Like, Connor, I'm sure you have
absolutely.
sat in that traffic. I sat in no traffic coming back.
Yeah, you got lucky. I don't know. Weird stuff happens.
You think it was more of a... I wonder if it's because of lives have changed because of working remotely and hybrids are now Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Well, I know they say
not Mondays.
Monday and Friday traffic in the summer is distinctly down during rush hour.
Absolutely.
Rush hour mornings.
So does that mean Sunday people aren't driving back from the shore yet?
I think you just hit one of those lucky pockets where you got through quickly.
I appreciate it.
It happens every once in a while.
I appreciate the lucky pocket, if that's the truth.
Yeah.
Do they still on now, because I have not driven back on a Sunday, do they still have the abandoned cop car parked on the side as you're coming
always.
up? They always have that?
For you to slow down.
Do you know we did once?
Don't
I'll take
implicate
it.
yourself here.
I will. It's statute of limitations has run out.
I don't know that you know that.
Took a silver, one of those like windshield, the windshield that like reflects the sun.
Yeah.
And wrote in black paint on it, fake cop car. And put already had the electrical tape on both sides of it. Ran down, put it across the windshield.
Johnny Hooligan over here.
And ran back.
Man.
And we did that one.
We just got a text actually from the Ballackinwood Police Department.
They're outside. Come out with your hands up.
Look, my cousin Joe is a detective there. He may be coming over to put me in cuffs right now. Unfortunately, they can't give you the date. They can't give you the time, so I'm safe.
Also, real quick.
We did do that. And by the way, that was jackassery. Don't do it.
Of course. Do not do that.
But it was fake cop.
Watch, now somebody's going to be hiding in one of those cop cars, and they're going to arrest the people that do it because you said it. You're ruining it for everybody else. Real quick before today's headlines, shout out to Nate from Atlantic City.
What's up, Nate?
I met Nate in Brigantine this weekend.
Where'd you meet Nate?
At the Brigantine the Farmers Market.
You love the Brigantine Farmers Market.
Big fan of it. They do it every Saturday from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And Nate was telling his wife, I think I know that guy. And then I ordered the street corn dip that I told you guys. And he goes, I knew that was you. Because of street corn. So the power of radio still exists. It's time now for today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
Today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
What up, Connor? What do we got?
Hello, gentlemen. We got a lot of... See, I think we need a little bit of feel-good Philly stuff, some wholesome Phillies.
Sure, wholesome.
I don't think anybody should be down.
No, nobody's down. It's
I mean,
they're 45 and 20.
We have a caller on hold that says that you can't lose to the Mets.
Now, I'm sure that Tyrone will depict it today that I was killing the Phillies.
Yeah, he probably
I'm sure
will.
that will be able to. They'll take a soundbite and depict it that way. But why would anybody be killing?
Yesterday, the loss kind of stunk, and you still got a lot of really really cool insight out of this trip. That's the great thing about teams being on an international stage. So there was a video that was posted of spilling the tea, quote unquote, was what it was called. And Kyle Schwarber and Alec Boehm were riding in the back of a car talking to each other. They answered some questions about their teammates themselves. And yeah, the whole Kyle Schwarber is a leader thing, it absolutely tracks.
Who has the worst fashion sense?
Me. I look like a dad all the time.
You are a dad.
Yeah, I am a dad, but
you're a dad at home and you're a dad at the field.
No.
He's a dad at home and a dad at the field.
I love that whole thing. I said it to you, and Connor said it was going to be in headlines today. If you hadn't seen it, Andrew, I think it just shows.
I've not seen it.
It just shows you Kyle Schwarber and Alec Boehm come across so likable, so relatable, and it's clear, even though there's not that big an age difference, the reverence that Boehm has for Schwarber as a veteran in the game.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
In sports, I think it's really like that. Like, you can only be like 5 or 6 years apart.
But there's the reverence.
But if you've been there in the league for 5 or 6 years, right, like you have a resume behind you. And a guy like Kyle Schwarber, what's the crazy stat? He's the only guy to hit a home run in both wild cards, National League, American League, DSs, CSs, and the World Series, and the World Baseball Classic. He's like the only guy.
Can't believe he didn't hit one in London.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's a shocker.
And Boehm just keeps getting better.
Yeah, he does.
Like, he just keeps getting better as far as he's so likable, he's so relatable, and the reverence that he holds Kyle Schwarber in just made me smile.
Yeah, that's what happens when you win, boys.
It does.
Damn right. Everybody's happy when you're winning, man.
And as you said, Connor, leadership.
Yes. Speaking of likability and wholesome content from the Phillies, I did not catch this on the broadcast yesterday, but if you missed it, Edmundo Sosa had a very interesting story told about him being late for a workout.
Yes.
And his reaction to it. Take a listen to Tim Kirchin telling this story.
Sosa, of course, is the greatest guy in the world. Rob Thomson loves him. He was late for the workout here the other day because he overslept because his phone went out, and he came out to apologize to Rob Thomson, and he was crying, saying, "I'm sorry, I'm late."
You didn't hear that story?
No. Well, again, I was on the field yesterday.
He was crying.
So he went to Rob Thomson in tears,
because
apologizing.
he showed up late,
yes.
like 20 minutes late for the workout. The team was already in full workout, and he's running onto the field. He overslept, and he was crying.
That's awesome.
That's amazing, dude.
Like, that's not because he was scared to.
He was embarrassed.
Maybe he was, but like, I think there's a respect thing.
No,
like,
totally.
I'm sorry that I did. Like, that's awesome. Makes me love Edmundo Sosa even more, man.
He may be, like, low-key the most likable player on this team.
Well, you heard it from Tim Kirchin there.
Yeah.
Like, Rob Thomson loves him.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And I think his teammates love him, too.
I miss that one.
That's a guy
story.
who doesn't get opportunities all that often here, and he's taking advantage of Trey Turner out, so he's probably
that guy never takes a light swing.
Nah.
No.
He takes daddy hacks every time he swings the bat, man.
He gets his money's worth.
He absolutely
by
does.
the way, it must be pointed out, Nick Castellanos would never be late, as he is noted as being the earliest player to arrive almost all the time.
How about that? How about a little respect for Nick Castellanos
I give
and
credit.
his timely matter?
I do not. I subscribe to the Bob Cooney rule. If you're not 5 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late.
That's a beautiful thing.
Let's finish off with something you guys said earlier in one of our main conversations today.
You hear what Money Mar says on our YouTube chat. Casty is who he is. I stopped expecting him to change in pivotal moments, the same as Tobias Harris. Can't depend on him, and whatever you get from Casty is gravy anytime you can get it.
And here's the thing. That Tobias Harris, Nick Castellanos comparison is more fair than unfair. It's a big contract player who doesn't produce consistently. The second you believe you see something out of them is normally a time that they fall back off. But I wonder, and I think this is just a difference, John, with the way that you consume sports compared to how Andrew and I consume sports.
Okay.
If I see more good than bad from a player, I assume good. And when you see Nick Castellanos struggle at points, I think it's hard for you to ever move past that, depending on like how much I don't think you weight the good as positively as Andrew and I do. And I'm not saying you're wrong.
You just said it there, though. You said that. You said when you see more good than bad, you expect the good.
You haven't necessarily.
I have no
seen more
idea
good
why
than
you would
bad.
feel that would apply to Nick Castellanos.
All-Star last year.
You have not seen more good than bad.
Multi-time All-Star in his career.
You have not seen more good than bad as a Philly. In fact, you've seen much more bad.
That's the thing. It's not just as a Philly.
Yeah, you're looking at him.
Well, honestly, I don't give a damn what he did with the Reds.
You should. Why is he a different guy here than he is
Because
there?
I don't care what he did when he was a Red.
Because it's the old school,
I
back
care
of
what
the
he does
baseball
as a
card.
I care what he does as a Philly, and it has been a disappointment.
It has been.
But as I say, I give the man his proper credit because the reason I give him more grace is because of the fact that I've seen those playoff performances against the Braves, and that meant a lot to me. And I absolutely love it.
But I don't know, and you're not alone on this, but I don't get how people cannot look at the career work of Nick Castellanos and say this guy is an above-average baseball player.
But Connor, again, I don't think I'm on an island here.
No, I don't think you are.
The majority of Phillies
you're
fans,
not alone.
The majority, I think the vast majority of Phillies fans don't give a damn what you did for somebody else.
And I think the vast majority of Phillies fans are very short-sighted on that.
It could be. I don't care what somebody did as another team member. I care what they did in my laundry. Because, again, I've said it before, I root for laundry.
But doesn't that make you think that he can do it in your laundry? Because I believe at some point that Nick Castellanos will have that hot stretch. I mean, it ends up being
a hot stretch.
So 2 years ago, his first year, right? He hit 263. That was a bad year, right?
I didn't think that was a bad year.
His first year.
I just thought that it was as more unproductive than I expected.
He hit 263. He's a career 273 hitter, so it's not like he ended up being all that far off. Last year, he hit 272. He's a career 273 hitter. This year, it's down to 215. I don't think it's going to reach close to 260. I think he's a 240 hitter. The question is, can he have that hot stretch where he ends up hitting 20 home runs? He's at 9 right now.
I absolutely think he's going to get to 20 home runs.
I think so as well.
I think he's going to get to 20 home runs.
But I think it's the contract that a lot of people are bothered by. And look, I could not look past the Tobias Harris contract, so it's not like I'm going to ignore the Nick Castellanos contract.
But that's why he's not Tobias Harris, because Tobias Harris everywhere has never been the guy that the Sixers were paying him to be.
Tobias never gave me those 2 Brave series.
It's not even here. The Clippers, wherever,
he never did, and I absolutely, Connor, I agree with you on that one. Yeah. I mean, and that's why I give Nick grace on things where it's just, but I still will never take someone who absolutely goes, watch video. I don't do that. I go up there with no approach, and he literally said it. So I'm not putting words in his mouth. I'm not changing it up. To me, I find that so arrogant. When you're not performing, I find it completely arrogant.
And this is why you need to account for the time with the Reds and with the Tigers.
Because that approach has worked.
Exactly. That's
in his career.
I don't think it's arrogance. I think it's trust in himself. I think he's gone through stretches like this before. I think he's gotten out of it before by doing this. He thinks it works. He may be proven wrong that it does not work.
But he didn't get a 5-year, $100 million contract because they signed him off the street. He did a lot of things to earn that contract.
And
he earned that contract.
And that's where just you and I, the three of us, I've got to disconnect with you because I don't care what he did with somebody else.
Yeah, but that's what got him this contract.
Right, but I don't care. I'm not going, well, you know what? He's been really sucky for long stretches as a Philly. But you know what? Let's look at it. He was pretty good with the Reds. I don't care what he was with the Reds.
Yeah, but you hope that he can still bring that up, right?
No, you can't just write it off,
No,
John.
all I care about is what he's been as a Philly. And again,
that's so short-sighted. I'm sorry.
I speak about the good, and I speak about the bad.
Yes.
Should Met fans be talking about Francisco Lindor,
Absolutely.
what he did previously in his career?
100% they should.
You hope that he can get back
No,
to that.
you can hope all you want. Should they be talking about, well, you know what? Let's not be too critical.
By the way, Lindor did have a great year last year.
They're upset. They're going, They're going to. They have every right to. Look at it. I don't care what somebody did before they got.
I'm not telling you not to be critical. I'm not telling you that at all. I'm saying he has not been good here. But what I'm saying is there is reason to believe that it could be different. With Tobias Harris, there is no reason to believe he will ever be the basketball player he is right now and has always been.
Right.
And Nick Castellanos has been a different baseball player than he is right now. And
okay, we're 3 years in. Hopefully it'll come.
Yeah, but last year you got him as an all-star. So far,
and
it was an all-star season. It's almost like the Jalen Hurts conversation, right? In 3 years as a starting quarterback at the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's very fair.
It was one.
Whoa. Did you? You guys just compared Jalen Hurts.
I'm saying in terms of the
Nick Castellanos.
He had 1 year where it wasn't that great. The second year got him paid, and last year wasn't that great. But I still expect Jalen Hurts to get back to what he did in year 2. I expect Nick Castellanos at some point this year to play like the Castellanos we saw last year. Even if it is only a 2-month stretch, at least it's a 2-month stretch.
Jalen Hurts, I can't believe that Nick Castellanos was brought up in a Jalen Hurts comparison in any way. But I will tell you that last year, it was the interceptions was really pretty much the only thing that Jalen Hurts didn't do as well. In fact, he did better in some categories.
Yeah, but again, eye test. He did not look like the same quarterback.
No, he didn't, but he certainly didn't look like Nick Castellanos.
No, I'm not. You're taking the comparison too literally. I'm saying Castellanos so far in his time here in Philadelphia, year 1 wasn't all that great. Year 2 was tremendous. Jalen Hurts, as his time here as the quarterback of the Eagles, year 1 wasn't all that great. Year 2 was tremendous. Year 3 was more like year 1.
Well,
but I still believe that year 2 is still there. Like, I still believe that Jalen Hurts can play like the quarterback I saw in 2022. I believe at some point Nick Castellanos can play like the player that he played in as a Detroit Tiger, Chicago Cub, Cincinnati Red, and in year 2 of the Philadelphia Phillies.
And I would tell you, that's great that you think that, and it's great, and hopefully you are going to be
baseball.
Right. And hopefully you're going to be right. What I would tell you is there's a reason why he's on his 4th franchise. And I really believe that. I believe 3 other franchises don't agree with you.
Well, the Reds did not want to pay him because their ownership because they're
no, they didn't, and they also didn't think they were going to get the return on investment.
And by the way, he went to Chicago as a trade deadline acquisition.
So I don't think organizations are giving up on Nick Castellanos.
And you can't say, well, what did he do in Chicago? He hit 321 and 16 home runs in limited time. So he was great with the Chicago Cubs too. So it's just. It is his 4th franchise, but one of them was for half a season.
I mean, how many places has Kyle Schwarber been? Are people giving up on him?
Yeah, Kyle Schwarber's played for, 5 teams now?
Yeah. Trey Turner's played with 3. He's been an all-MLB guy.
I think that people look at skill sets and say whether they're willing to pay for it or not.
And they paid him 5 years, $100 million.
They did.
And the
Marlins
were going to give him that contract. There were a lot of teams that were going to give him that contract.
No, the 2 were. It was Phillies and Marlins. They were the only 2 at the end.
All right, it could have ended up dropping down to 4 years, $80 million instead of 5 years, $100 million.
And I would tell you that it's considered one of the worst contracts in baseball. It is considered. Tim Kirchin on the show had told us that it was considered an immovable contract. So they needed him to.
I think there's a lot
up.
of immovable contracts.
Okay, but that's,
you brought up Francisco Lindor. That's another immovable contract maybe right now.
And it's
Mike Trout. Mike Trout could possibly be.
Oh, I think people would bite the bullet on Mike Trout. Just hoping.
You yourself don't want to.
No, I wouldn't want to. But I believe there were people who would. I don't believe a Mike Trout, Nick Castellanos conversation blows my mind.
No, we're not comparing those two.
No, I mean anytime they even come up. Jalen Hurts things.
So we'll keep on. Look, this has been the main jumping point of this show. Is what makes you like players, what makes you dislike players. There are people that just dislike players just to dislike players, and I think Nick Castellanos is the poster child of that. Would love to hear from you, 610-632-0975. But real quick, the violins.
Oh, my.
So I read an article on ESPN this morning. It came out yesterday after, I think, the Phillies-Mets. Yeah, well after the Phillies-Mets game. They did a write-up on the 2-game series. Francisco Lindor, quote, I feel like we had too much time off because they had, 2 or 3 days before game 1, and now there's a day off after the second game. Jeff McNeil said a similar thing. It would be cool if we had 4 teams here so you could get 5 or 6 games. It's tough coming over here for 2 games and then flying back to the States.
By the way, before you do throw too many rocks at the Mets, Alec Boehm said the same thing.
I know.
It's like the players feel this way.
Okay.
They don't want to lose 3 off days over the course of a 6-month season. Losing 3 off days for 2 games is a lot. And the players wish they had come over for just 1 day in advance.
Well, I wish I got a free trip to England.
Thank you. And did you see the plane they flew on?
No, I did not.
Beautiful.
Oh, you didn't see it?
No, I don't think I'd make enough money to have seen those pictures.
It was one of those Airbuses.
They could have put king-size beds for every single player on that plane.
They had double beds. Every player had a double. 100 people on the plane had a double where they could sleep.
They weren't flying like a cheap airline that you're trying to save a couple bucks on. No, they were flying on, you said an Airbus.
It was an Airbus.
and they're complaining about they had too much time off.
No, I don't
they're probably going to say it threw off their rhythm.
I don't think that's what they're complaining about. I think they're complaining about
Bottom line is they're complaining.
But you have a certain amount of off days in the course of a 6-month season, and players really do value their off days because they don't get them, and they're going, I lost 3 off days for 2 games.
Yeah.
That is very, very rare. No, it's never done.
And you had an experience of a lifetime playing baseball in London. And I know these guys can afford a trip to London whenever they want. But look, they didn't have to pay for this trip to London. I don't know. Like to me, I'm reading this article. I'm like, are you guys really complaining right now?
That's why. Because,
do I need to get the violins out for you?
And we're saying it because we have 8 days off a month or 9.
Right.
They don't. That's why they're saying it. They don't have 9 days off a month.
And then what happens during the off season?
What?
They have multiple months off.
Yeah,
That's
but they're
fair.
also
They go to the batting cages.
They do.
I don't have that time off.
I got you.
I got 3 weeks, baby.
I got you. I got your backs of players.
All
on
right,
this
coming up next, we'll react. That's a surprising one.
Yeah, I do.
You normally don't have the backs of players.
No.
We reset all the stuff we have on the show, and I do want to bring something up else that Jeff McNeil and Bryce Harper both talked about another in-season tournament. I don't want it. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports.
Let's head for Boston.
brought to you by Avelo Airlines. Avelo is now flying out of Wilmington Airport with nonstop flights to over 10 cities, including cities in Florida and San Juan, Puerto Rico. Go to Avelo Air, AVELO Air.com.
It is 8:30 on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. All right, here's what we're talking about today. What makes us like players? What makes us dislike players? As John has pointed out, we like who we like, we dislike who we dislike. And we don't all like the same people. We don't all dislike the same people.
There's usually attributes and traits that we like.
Yes.
That then we apply to players and go, oh, I like that.
And yours was professionalism, and that's why sometimes
absolutely.
Nick Castellanos rubs you the wrong way.
No question.
I don't have beef with Nick Castellanos. I just wish he was hitting better than 215. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. I saw a tweet in response. B Gun put out one of our quotes, and the guy goes, Andrew always hating. He had 2 game-winning hits last week. Yeah, and I celebrated it. I would rather Nick Castellanos not be hitting 215. Is that?
Wait a minute. I mean, he's getting on you. I think you're very fair with Nick Castellanos.
Is 215 and 9 home runs good enough?
I think you're very fair with Nick Castellanos.
No. Okay.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry for being slightly critical.
No, but
Apology accepted.
The weird thing is I don't think you are.
I don't think I've said anything unfair about Nick Castellanos.
No, I don't think yet. But I think
if anything, I'm more defensive of Nick Castellanos
by 10 times more than I am.
Yeah. But anyways, people hear what they want to hear or read what they want to read.
They can.
So that's jumping off point number 1. The second thing, let's play it one more time, Connor, in case you're just tuning in. We missed this last week, and shame on us. Jalen Hurts was asked about Nick Sirianni and how Sirianni's been open to change. And how does that make Jalen Hurts feel? Or what does that say about Nick Sirianni? And I know you don't like the question, John, but this was another opportunity for Jalen Hurts to at least say something nice about Nick Sirianni. It has been reported that their relationship needs to be nurtured. We have seen multiple times where Jalen Hurts has not really had his back, including his exit interview when he was asked about Nick Sirianni, and he did not say much at all. Here he is at mandatory minicamp the other day being asked about Nick Sirianni.
What have you noticed about Nick being open-minded to change up the offense like he has? I mean, what does that say about him?
I mean, it's a great question. I don't know that I know the answer to it.
Well, what have you seen from him as far as doing that?
I think he's just, he's been great, and the messages he's delivering to the team. He's trying to be very intentional in what he's saying, and yeah.
So I have said I don't really love listening to Jalen Hurts' press conferences because I don't think I really get much out of anything, but at least he answers questions. Even though he doesn't answer the question, he answers questions. He could not think of anything to say there.
No, I don't think he has anything nice to say about Nick Sirianni.
Like, that's what we're getting out of this, right?
No, I absolutely believe it, but I also don't, again, as I told you, I don't like the question, and I think he got caught off guard by the question because it was not a good question.
Okay.
Ask somebody to get in somebody's head. Tell us, what does this mean about Nick? No, just say, what have you thought of the working relationship between Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore that you've observed?
Maybe he's been asked that question already.
The get inside someone's heads question is as stupid as, so how's it feel? How did it feel to get that game-winning hit?
Yeah, but you can always just give an answer, an easy answer. Connor thought of an answer in 5 seconds.
He did, and I would tell you, though, he doesn't. Remember, there is a difference between, first of all, I disagree with that. I don't care that, I think Jalen Hurts gives terrible answers. I think he
gives an answer.
No,
he had pregnant pause. He couldn't think of something to say.
Because I think I understand it because I think the question sucked.
Okay.
I really do. But I think that he is a guy who, when he had the chance with Jeff McClain, he had the chance with another questioner at the end of the season, he would not throw his coach a life raft. He will not now either.
No.
He doesn't. It's apparent. And if Jalen is not feeling that way, then he better work really hard to correct it because it's the perception that he's giving off. We're not.
Does he have to?
He's giving it off.
Yeah, I have an alternate theory here.
All right, what's that?
What if Jalen Hurts is fine with Nick Sirianni, but there just is not an answer to that question because Nick Sirianni is doing so little right now?
Yeah, and that could be the answer too, but he's not. I don't believe it's fine. Enough people have close to the situation and even nationally have said, yeah, they got to work on their relationship.
Right. You might not love him, but I think there's a chance, right, that the answer to that question being so, like, I don't really know how to answer it is Nick really hasn't done anything. It's Kellen Moore implementing his offense, and Sirianni just kind of hangs out, and maybe Jalen Hurts is thinking, well, I don't know. He's taken a major step back. I don't really have anything to say about him right now.
Could be.
It's not whether I like him or not. It's that he just doesn't have much responsibility anymore.
Right.
Could be. I mean, and he did not have an answer. I think it caught him off guard because the actual answer, if he told us that answer, we would have killed him.
Oh, yeah.
He would have been killed. He would have been like, what are you trying to do, make your head coach look bad?
Right, exactly.
I think he got caught with, well, what am I to say here? Well, first off, I get a feelings-type question. Go inside someone's head and tell me what they're thinking, which is a terrible question. But it's the idea of like, well, what do I say? And Jalen gives off the – but remember, he was taught from a young age at college. They hate you. They're trying to feed you rat poison. They're trying to disrupt our team. That's what Nick does.
So then give the cookie cutter Nick Sirianni. Hey, look, me and Coach, it's great. We're excited for another season. Don't answer the question by not answering the question.
Right.
Him not having words to say
is hard.
Tells me that there's still something there.
There's something there.
Would love to hear from you. Text line, phone line, 610-632-0975. One more tweet before we get back to our texts and the calls. So you guys saw me working out a response during the commercial break because you only get so many characters. I'm not paying for a blue check mark, okay?
Don't pay for a blue check.
So D-Lo checks in.
What's up, D-Lo?
When you wonder why Philly radio sucks.
Well, wait a minute, D-Lo.
Andrew just said Hurts and Castellanos are the same. What are we doing here? I did not say that. Okay, let me make myself, I will say it slower and make myself more clear. Because you also were surprised that I compared Castellanos.
I can't believe that any discussion was made of Castellanos comparing him to Hurts.
I wasn't comparing.
Well,
here's what I was trying to say. And it goes back to our conversation that we were having about how you can't ignore what Nick Castellanos has done in the past in his career, even before he played for the Phillies. For you to say Nick Castellanos is who he is because of what you saw in year one for a month last year and then half of a season and ignore everything that he did when he was in Detroit, Chicago, and Cincinnati, I think that would be wrong. For people to base Jalen Hurts off of just last year and ignore what he did 2 seasons ago, I think would be wrong. Because that means you believe he's a middle-of-the-pack quarterback and he doesn't have the ceiling that he had 2 years ago. Does that make more sense?
I think you make a little more sense there, but again, I think it...
I could do this with any player.
There are players...
I could do this with any player.
There are players, and people will come with them on social media, and please do. There are players who have come to the Sixers, come to the Flyers, come to the Phillies, come to the Eagles, that have been highly successful for other teams. And they've come here and they've literally pooped themselves.
Absolutely.
And we do not say, yeah, but wait a minute now. Let's not rip them. Let's not be too critical because look what they did previously in their career. Most people do not care. I don't care.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they are who they are then.
Yeah, but no, because...
It doesn't. Like James Harden, whether you want to admit it or not, James Harden is a top 75 player of all time.
And as I said, I knew exactly who James Harden was before he arrived.
But he's a top 75 player of all time.
Well, that's fine. You can, and if that floats your boat, I know what he is in crunch time in a playoff series.
Right, but if you were to say, hey, I saw James Harden play 1.5 years with the Sixers, I know who he is because of those 1.5 seasons, that would be wrong.
But you know what I saw with James Harden? I saw Game 1 and Game 5 versus Boston.
Yeah.
Much like I saw with Nick Castellanos, that I'll give him some grace because I saw the Braves series
and I saw Jalen Hurts play his best game on the biggest stage.
But Jalen Hurts is considered still last year, as get people here too. Jalen Hurts was a top 10 quarterback last year.
Right.
Nick Castellanos is not even close to being that kind of discussion.
It's not the caliber of the player.
Yeah, I'm not doing right.
It's if you believe that guy is still in there. For Nick Castellanos, the level of that guy is significantly less than what the level of that guy is for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts' ceiling is Bryce Harper. Like, they're not comparable talent-wise, but the argument is, like, if you see something from a player once, I think it's right to believe that it's possible for that to happen again.
And I haven't seen it just one time with Castellanos.
Exactly.
I've seen it multiple times. I saw it last year.
And as players get older in their career,
right,
they rarely go back to being dominant.
Yes, we're not saying
it's usually a decline. It's usually any kind, no matter what age, there's usually, if they have greatness and then things start to decline for 3 or 4 years, that is who they are.
I got you, but I like...
It's not who they are when they were 23.
Connor brought up Tobias Harris. I never saw greatness out of Tobias Harris.
Exactly.
No.
So I never expected greatness. I've seen greatness out of Nick Castellanos, so I expected at some point, even if it's just for a month, but that month could carry your team in a 162-game season. That's the comparison I was trying to make. You shouldn't base Jalen Hurts off of just last year alone when you saw what he was able to do in 2022. The story is still not written for Jalen Hurts. The story is still not written for Castellanos.
You stated it much better there.
All right,
but I don't
you.
think anyone wants to hear Hurts. The idea is the Hurts-Castellanos comparison. People do hear that and go, wait a minute.
Well,
find me somebody more like Castellanos to compare.
Then like, it's okay to have...
I got you.
Like,
No, I
that
understand.
conversation was a fair conversation to have.
Yeah, you explained it very well.
Damn right I did. All right, coming up next.
I thought you could have been better.
We get to your texts and your calls, 610-632-0975. I want more reaction on this and some experiences from London that we'll get to coming up next. Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now, around the bases with Andrew Salciunas.
Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. We have a conversation we had to have in the 9 o'clock hour, Connor.
Okay.
About found money.
A little moral dilemma.
And a lot of it.
A lot of it.
I could fix that dilemma easily.
Yeah, I would just
I
take
got bills.
My answer is take it and run,
I can't wait to hear your answers when you hear
this is definitely a dilemma. So we'll get to that.
Dilemma.
We'll get to that coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. But I want to get to some reaction on our topics today. But first, before we even get to any of the reaction to our topics, a lot of Philadelphians went to London for the Phillies games, which, by the way, the crowds were amazing. There was that one photo after I think Harper hit his home run of all the Phillies fans that were on their feet. There was a lot of people that made that trip. And I know Philly sports trips were out there. There's a lot of great people that made the trip over to London. And I love this man, Sam from England, who is a Philadelphia diehard sports fan, but born and raised in the UK. So it's not like he was born and raised in Philadelphia and made his trip over there. So I thought that must have been really cool that the Phillies came to his hometown. Let's go to Sam. Sam, what's going on, brother?
Oh, hi, guys. How are you?
Hey, buddy.
doing
Sam,
great.
you have a great weekend or what?
It was all right, and saved me a few bucks having them play here rather than me fly over. So.
Right, yeah, exactly. I imagine that you did save a few bucks that way.
Yeah, although the game yesterday went on a bit, so I had to pay extra for my train. But yesterday was with my son, so that was a nice experience for him, and he enjoyed the game, even though we lost. He actually blamed Soto for the loss. He was like, this guy, he doesn't really know a lot about some of the non-star players, outside of Harper and stuff. And he was like, who's this guy? He's not very good. And I was like, he actually was good. When we picked him up, I thought he was a good reliever, but he obviously wasn't. So I actually blame Soto, or dare I say it, maybe blame Topper, because Walker was playing well in London before he got taken out. But great experience. MLB deserved all the
Did
credit
you go to
he's
both
done.
games or just yesterday's?
Both, yeah. So yesterday was just with my son, and Saturday I went through sports trips and got we built like a wall, because I don't know if you guys know, some of you guys that like soccer, you can't sit next to each other if you're a home fan. So my team's Southampton. If we played Manchester City, a Manchester City fan can't sit next to me. They have to be in a separate section. So we had a Phillies only section.
Oh, that's
Really?
awesome. That's
yeah,
cool.
we built like a wall.
I
like a
honestly
wall.
didn't know that that they can't sit next to each other.
So,
I think it's more of a safety hazard that way.
I mean, to be fair, we could probably do that in Ink, right? Because we don't like, certain fans coming in, especially those horrible cowgirl fans. But it's like it with every team, though, rather than just one game. But yeah, it was great. We had a wall, and the atmosphere was really good that day, and that was probably the best atmosphere. And then yesterday, the thing I have to call out, I had Seattle Mariner fans. I had some other teams they were cheering on the Mets, because obviously everyone hates us. There was fans, UK fans of other teams supporting the Mets. That's why yesterday it might have sounded a bit more Metty, but it wasn't. We out, 60-40, 70-30. It was Philadelphia and it was great. It was like being in Philly.
Sam, Sam. I have one more important question for you. Did you see anybody wearing the Phillies Mets gear, like both teams on it?
Yeah, there was, and I was like, oh my god! But then he put on a Giants hat, San Francisco Giants hat. So I was like, okay, he's a Giants.
Oh, okay, so he's a Giants fan.
Okay.
And thanks for the call, Sam. I'm glad that you got to experience that both days and with your son yesterday.
That's awesome that he got to do it with his son.
That's really cool. But yeah, dude, that button-down shirt with the
That was so
with the
terrible.
Phillies Mets logos
The
on
only
it.
thing, I guess somebody from the UK maybe would want it that attended as a memory. They didn't have a rooting interest with either team. My cousins were there.
Like I imagine if you let's say the Hall of Fame game, right, for the NFL, the first preseason game. Like if you went to the Hall of Fame game and the Eagles played the Chiefs in the Hall of Fame game, you might buy a polo
Yeah, but the thing
that has both team logos on it.
That's not a good comparison. Okay. Because of the fact that you're doing bad with comparisons today. Because that is an
last
NFL
comparison was a good one. Just a couple people didn't understand it.
Because that is an NFL. We know the NFL game. It would be if they brought Premier League soccer over, and you attended a Premier. If I attended a Premier League soccer match, one of these things, they had it in Philly.
Yeah.
And I saw that shirt, and I liked the shirt, and it had two. I don't know. You got to give me the hated rivals. Manchester United and who else?
I don't know. I don't watch soccer.
The thing is, well, that's the key is they don't either.
Right.
So I
they
could
don't watch
see
baseball.
I could see European fans buying.
Yeah, like
that
there's
shirt.
probably somebody in Sao Paulo that's going to buy some sort of Eagles Packers
As long
here.
as it's not green, because they may get
they've made that
they may
point
get in big
perfectly
trouble.
clear. They would know better than we would. All right, what do we have on the text line there, Connor?
All right, so we've got a bunch of people still chiming in on everything from the Nick Castellanos stuff, but I want to get to this one about Ryan in Florida. I don't know how we should feel about this as a show, boys. You may be
Okay.
coming after all of us.
Okay.
He says, I've never been more confident that Castellanos is about to go on a heater than I am after this morning's conversation.
All right.
Are we because we did this with Harper. We have before.
Who?
No, that was Bill Colarulo.
We have not done this with
Well, we kind of did it with the hustle thing, and then he died.
No, we called out one incident of well, it's not the only incident, but we called out one incident. It's nothing.
And I've been saying over and over and over again, I believe that Castellanos is going to get hot.
We did have a bit of a
You
Stubbs
both
thing.
believe that, yes.
We did have a bit of a Stubbs thing where John brought up Stubbs for a week, and he went like, I don't know, 5 for 7
what's he
or
back,
something.
170?
So,
Yeah,
so
that's
here's the
good.
thing. So then we're a pro-mush team.
Yeah, exactly.
Or show. So if we're critical of any player,
that means they're about to break out, is what Ryan from Florida is saying.
I think they listen to the show. And I think we're that motivational
Stubbs has broken
factor.
out? I must have
think so,
slept.
too.
Stubbs has broken out?
Hey, he had some good games. He made that great play at the plate, damn it. All right? That will be in the Phillies video
it was
yearbook
a nice,
one day.
It was by the way, that was a really great play at the plate.
All right, coming up next,
doesn't make the yearbook.
we continue your reaction.
His
we,
173s.
We
really
reset
busted
the
out.
show. And also, because of the pomp and circumstances, there were a lot of Phillies from the 08 squad that were in London this past week. And I thought it was cool seeing Chase Utley throw it to Bryce Harper at first base. But there was one member of the 08 Phillies team that wasn't there because he had something else to do this weekend. And I'm surprised you didn't bring it up in today's headlines.
I saw it on the sheet.
It's good work. Thank you for reading it. But this man said something that I can't disagree with more. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Phils fall to the Mets. I'm Connor Thomas, and this update is brought to you by Bradford Whitewater Heaters. When you need a new
Kincade and Salciunas on this Fanatic Monday. Presented by our friends at Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit nopaybryant.com for flexible spending options on a new heating and cooling system. And 6 hours from now, exactly 6 hours from now, coming up at 3 o'clock, Tyrone Johnson is a big news announcement from the Fanatic. Make sure you're listening. 3 o'clock here on 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
What's he got up his sleeve? Club Tyrone is offering, maybe annual memberships or
Could be.
something?
I think he did put out a list
of Club Tyrone
of Club
members?
Tyrone the other day.
I can't wait to see
I remember
it.
when Club Tyrone started, I believe the first person, don't quote me, we can always text Tyrone and ask, but I'm pretty sure the first member of Club Tyrone was Justin Anderson of the Sixers.
Really?
If I'm not mistaken, because I've been here since Tyrone got here. I'm pretty sure Justin Anderson was
Really?
member number 1 of Club Tyrone.
Symbol was 1-1. I didn't realize that.
And they're allowed. By the way, is the rule with Club Tyrone too is that it cannot be revoked? Like when Tyrone invites you into Club Tyrone.
It's a great question. I'm not sure.
I want to know if he needs to verify that if you can revoke
I know
membership
requirements, but I do not know how you can be evicted from the club.
That's awesome.
And I think Nick Williams was in Club Tyrone, so that was right around that time. Mailata, he had Mailata first. Club Tyrone had Jordan Mailata in the VIP area.
He was already had him in.
Oh, yeah, he was already in there. So, yeah, do me a favor, Connor. Text Tyrone and ask him if Justin Anderson was the first member of Club Tyrone.
All right, we'll do.
And
All right,
can
please.
your membership be revoked?
And, yeah, that's another important question that we need answered. All right, so here's what we're talking about today. What makes you like or dislike a player? John has always said it, and I completely agree with you, that we like who we like, we dislike who we dislike.
In this town, I think it's amplified like I've never seen.
Yeah, and if you like a player, you will have that person's back. I did it with Carson Wentz and Ben Simmons, admittedly. Like, I had those guys' backs no matter what was going wrong. And then there's players that you dislike, and you will find every reason why you see, this is why I don't like this guy. This is why I don't want him on my team. Well, we all do it.
Haley did get the answer. Justin Anderson was.
It was
first member.
that.
She texted Tyrone and got
I care about my coworkers.
Nothing gets by
man.
you, kid.
It's
There
not,
you
you know
go.
what? Not coworkers, friends. I care about my friends. I listen closely, except for you two guys.
Yeah, exactly.
But so
I haven't seen a lot of that, but I'm sure it's coming.
what makes you like players? What makes you dislike players? And I believe Nick Castellanos is the prototype of the person that we don't like we don't like him because of reasons, and we're always going to not like that guy. And I'm not saying I don't like him. I think a lot of you don't like Nick Castellanos. And the reason why I even thought about this topic was yesterday when that double play happens. No, it wasn't a good swing, but my God, great play by the Mets catcher. And that pains me to say anything positive about the Mets because I freaking hate the Mets. But when I saw that play happen, my immediate reaction was, damn, that sucks. John's immediate reaction was tip of the cap to the catcher. Connor's reaction was just the same. And yet when I tweeted out yesterday that was a kick in the nuts loss, the responses were all filled with Nick Castellanos hate.
And you know what's funny is I got a couple Nick Castellanos hate ones, but very few. I didn't get a ton of that. Cause I think it's just that was a great play.
Yeah, but I got
That's amazing.
I got Nick Castellanos hate. You could look at the replies. You could click on my tweet and look at the replies. It was Nick Castellanos hate.
It was a horrendous at bat.
It was a bad at bat. It was a bad at bat. But my first thought is,
tip the
wow,
cap.
great play.
No, tip the cap first.
Yes.
And then you can say, boy, that was a horrendous
A
at
lot
bat.
of people's first reaction is to rip Nick Castellanos because he has not lived up to the contract. That I think we can all agree with, right?
If anyone's arguing that, then they just aren't going to have an honest conversation.
Like Connor and I still see maybe Nick Castellanos can turn things around, and it might not be 162 games, but it could be 50.
Okay.
But, Connor, I think you agree that the contract has not totally lived up to it just yet.
Absolutely. He has largely underachieved here.
Yes.
There have been really good moments. There have been largely moments that are lesser than the paycheck he's getting. But I'm not going to pretend like the positive thing cannot be the possible outcome.
Right,
and
I
I'm
agree.
not saying John's doing that,
No,
but
I'm
there is a portion of this fan base that believes Nick Castellanos stinks at baseball.
Oh, yeah, I got a he stinks, get rid of him
And
response.
I know a
doesn't
lot
stink.
of people feel that way.
He stinks right now, which is different. And something that I think is really important to remember in situations like this is there are players that stink. The Phillies don't have any right now, I don't think. But there are players that flat out should not be playing at the major league level.
Right.
There are players that you should treat like some people treat Nick Castellanos like in this city. And because we have high expectations, I think we get caught up in guys that are slumping or guys that are underachieving compared to their possible success level, and we just put them all in the same bucket of this guy stinks.
Yeah,
and that's not fair.
And that is unfair. So what makes us like players, like who we like, dislike who we dislike? What makes us like these players? What makes us dislike these players? For me, it's very simple. I just like if you're talented or not. That I'm a very easy guy to win over. If you're good, hey, you can play for my team any day. You can climb in 610-632-0975. And I have to bring up something that Jason Worth said. Yesterday, he won the Belmont Stakes. So congratulations. His horse did, yes. Congratulations to Jason Worth and his horse. What was it, Dornock? Is that what the horse's name is? I said to bet that horse the last race, and of course he freaking wins this race. But Jason Worth said something after winning that I can't disagree with more. And I'll tell you about that coming up in a few minutes. But let's go to Rich in Easton. Rich, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
You guys are the best. You combine Philadelphia and talk radio. It's like comedy, psychiatry, and brain surgery all in the same city.
And we're not qualified for most of those things, Rich.
Unbelievable. You guys might be. So, anyway, I'll get to my likable player in a second. But and I wanted to talk Phillies only, but you sucked me into this Jalen Hurts thing. Are you guys surprised how he answers any questions? He answers a question that's a good question. Then he has 7 ums in there, and then he says, I don't think I have an answer for you. We're not going to get anything out of Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, but Rich, here's where I disagree with you. He may never really say something, but he at least says something. You get what I'm saying?
I get it.
He at least answers. He couldn't even think of a word to say about Nick Sirianni.
And I would disagree. And I disagree with you that it was a good question.
I showed him a lifesaver, and he didn't. But anyway, you guys realize, I just looked this up. I don't know if anybody knows this, but you know how drafts can be crapshoots, especially in baseball because there's so many rounds. Do you realize in the 2014 draft in the first round, do you know that Turner, Nola, Schwarber, and Hoffman all were first-round draft picks in that 2014.
Wow, that's amazing.
Draft.
And for them to all be on the same team,
And
that's pretty much all.
And Dave Dombrowski has a history of snagging guys who at times in their careers have maybe slid below expectations.
Yeah.
And going and grabbing them.
And thanks for the call, Rich. Yeah, I mean that is great. And look, that's unheard of because it's not like they were all on the same team and got traded as a part of the package.
Yeah.
Right? Like signed Turner, signed Hoffman, signed Schwarber. Like that's amazing actually.
I mean, so much good has come out of the tenure of Dave Dombrowski.
Oh my God, yeah.
So much good.
And one of the biggest misnomers is that he comes in and blows up farm systems and only wins, whereas this farm system is actually better than it's ever been.
Well, he brought in Preston Mattingly.
That helps.
And he's trying to say he's a guy who he's a guy who just continually wins at his job.
Well, one of the things, and we always credit the Phillies for being such a family-friendly organization, they kept their scouts around for far too long. Scouts that did not unearth players.
Correct.
Like they were here for like 20-plus years, and Dave Dombrowski fired them.
Dave Dombrowski played the black hat.
Yeah.
And he had no problem
and it was
playing it.
But you know
had
what?
to be done.
It was the right thing to do. When you fail for like 20-plus years, you shouldn't probably still be the scout of a team that's not unearthing any talent.
I think it was one of the parameters of him getting the job, was saying,
maybe
coming in, this is what we need you to do. You got to be the bad guy here. He had no problem doing that because he's a baseball lifer that is so well respected.
Absolutely. All right, what do we have on the text line? Phone line, text line, same number, 610-632-0975. Let us know what we have on the text line there, Connor, and then I'm going to tell you about this Jason Worth thing.
Okay, we've got to check in on Jalen Hurts here. And no name on this text, but they say, I'll tie your 2 questions together. If Jalen keeps up answers like this and doesn't play to an all-pro level, you're going to see the fans not like Jalen Hurts very much.
I would agree with that. I'd agree with that.
Well, yeah, because
Absolutely.
it's what have you done for me lately? And,
yes.
And last year's season.
You better ball out if you treat your coach like this, and he has. He has made a conscious decision to treat the coach like this. He better ball out, or it's not going to go well.
I do wonder how long the leash would be for Eagles fans, because as we have talked about, Jalen Hurts has been defended more often than not by a lot of Eagles fans.
Sure.
And look, it's been 3 years. He was tremendous in year 2 as a starter, not obviously 4 years in his NFL career. So I think the jury's still out. Like I don't think there's a definitive answer of who Jalen Hurts is.
Not
but
yet.
I do believe there's been a lot more defending than there's been ripping.
I do
Jalen
believe
Hurts.
he has been treated better than any Eagles starting quarterback in my memory as an Eagles fan.
So I don't know how long it would take, to that texter's point, I don't know how long it would take for people to start turning on Jalen Hurts. I really don't.
I hope it doesn't happen.
Well, of course I hope it doesn't happen.
But I know you don't. But Jalen's made this bet himself. It's blatant. Honestly, to me, it's blatantly disrespectful.
Right.
Because it's not hard to throw someone a lifeline when they need it.
All right. So yesterday was the Belmont Stakes, right? Saturday, excuse me. Belmont Stakes was Saturday. And Dornoch won the race.
Right.
Owned by Jason Worth.
Partial owner, yeah. Right? Yeah. Okay.
Former Phillies World Series champion.
Yes.
So he was at the Belmont Stakes and obviously not in London for the Philly series, even though I saw Utley, Howard, Rollins, Chooch was out there. Victorino, Cole Hamels. A lot of the guys from the 08 squad were there, and Jason Worth was not there.
By the way, that's Mr. Middleton who brought them all out there for those trips.
That's
major.
cool.
And the Mets organization, I think, traveled with 2.
And doesn't Steve Cohen have 10 times the money that John Middleton has?
David Wright, and one other that he paid for.
So after winning the Belmont Stakes, Jason Worth was asked about it, and he said it was right up there with winning the World Series.
Oof.
Now, he has done it, so I guess I can't agree or disagree with somebody else's feelings. But that's got to be an asinine thing to say. He worked his whole life to get to Major League Baseball and won the World Series. He bought a horse. How is that the same feeling?
I wouldn't understand it.
Yeah.
I would not
Connor,
understand.
let's say your baseball career is still going on.
It is.
Yeah, your softball form. You started playing baseball at what age?
3, 4.
Okay, and you're 30. Did you turn 30 yet?
29, buddy.
29. That's all right. I don't want to end your 20s just yet. You've played 26 years of baseball.
Yeah.
And let's say this was the year you won the World Series. 26 years in the making of a sport, and you win the World Series, which is what every player wants to do at some point in their life. Every 9-year-old has pretended to hit the game-winning World Series or strike out the batter to win the World Series. Everybody who's ever picked up a baseball has thought about that. Jason Worth bought a horse. How can you compare the two?
And he doesn't coach the horse.
No, exactly. He doesn't train
It's
it.
not like he trains the horse.
He probably pets the horse, and that's it.
He literally
pets are
gives
important.
He gives the horse some oats.
Yeah, oats are key.
Hey, if
Good
Nick,
fuel.
If Nikki Foles won the Westminster Dog Show, or the one when John O'Hurley came in here, the one they have up in King of Prussia in Oaks, that they put on Thanksgiving morning.
No, I would no idea what you're talking about.
I wouldn't have any it wouldn't be anything. I'd be proud as a dog dad that Nicky won, but it wouldn't be like if I won the World Series.
Raise that horse.
If I won a Marconi,
he didn't get a milk bottle and raise the horse.
I don't know what goes into becoming the owner of a Belmont.
You make millions.
Horse.
You have millions of dollars in your bank account. That's what makes you a winner.
I got you. I can't say definitively. It's just you just throw cash at somebody and then the horse wins. I don't.
You pick the right people to train the horse. You pick the right person to ride the horse. And then you hope that the horse turns out.
Is it like being the GM of
I was about to say,
small team?
I don't even think he picked the jockey.
No,
I'm sure somebody else picked
somebody
the
else
jockey.
did. He just paid for it.
I just don't know enough about horse racing to say what that feeling would be like. What I would say is, personally, I would prefer to win the World Series.
I would personally prefer to have something I actually controlled. To be proud of that.
Dude, he was a big part of winning that World Series.
He was absolutely.
He was a huge part of winning that World Series, and he's saying that it's
I
right
don't
up
understand
there.
it.
Like, that's asinine to me. Now he's the guy, so he's allowed to say it.
Right.
I've never won the Belmont Stakes or the World Series, believe it or not.
Can I ask though, why is he dressing like a villain from Batman?
Oh, that's just how you dress those things.
No, not every owner dresses like that.
Yeah, well, not every owner's Jason
A lot of
Worth.
them wear nice suits, and I mean, it looks like
a nice suit.
Honestly, it looks like a villain from Batman.
He did. It was an interesting look.
He looks good, man. He's getting fits off.
But I find it interesting. Let's see. Oh, here you go. Here's his Wikipedia page. After his retirement, Worth began working as an organic farmer in Illinois. He purchased 300 acres, so maybe the horse works on the plot of land. Worth also started 2 88 Racing, a horse racing stable that he described as part of an effort to fill the competitive void baseball once did for him. What?
Okay, wait a minute. No. I heard this from Coach Joe Gibbs when Joe Gibbs started his racing team.
Okay.
Sat down with Coach. He was good friends with Dan Reeves and got to interview him quite a few times, just talk football with him. And he talked about the competitive juices as a team owner.
Okay.
He said we're similar to him going to winning Super Bowls.
By the way, he only owns 10%.
Right. He only has 10%.
He only owns 10%.
He has no voice in that horse. He has no voice in that horse other than to show up and be proud that he's a part of it.
I am happy for Jason
I'm
Worth.
happy for
I'm
it,
happy
too.
for Jason Worth. I just find
Did you
that to
boo
be
him when he left?
No, I said go get that money, man.
Absolutely.
And
Go
I was
get paid.
I was a child.
Go get
saying
paid.
that. 2011, I was a junior in high school.
Go get paid. Yes, go get
Or
paid.
no, when did he sign? I was even younger. He signed in 09?
10.
10? Okay.
Wasn't it
yeah,
10?
I was even younger.
Go get paid.
Go get paid, man.
That's fine.
Let's go to T-Love on the cell. What's up, T-Love?
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
T-Love.
Hey, let me say, first of all, man, it's so good to be back home and listening to you guys in my living room. I really enjoy this every day.
Thank you.
You're the man, T-Love. Welcome back.
Yeah, man. Hey, you guys give me something to really think about that I never considered before. I mean, to compare Tobias Harris to Castellanos, that never even crossed my mind. But now that I'm thinking about it and I've heard it, I see the comparison and I'm like, damn. Wow.
The only thing that separates them is that Nick Castellanos has actually carried the team in the playoffs, whereas Tobias Harris has done squat in the playoffs.
Yeah, and well, you know, baseball is more of an individual sport. You know what I mean? I mean, Tobias Harris scoring 25 is not going to win a game unless the other guys show up. But Castellanos can win a game with a home run, you know? So, I mean, that kind of, you know, shades that comparison a little bit, you know, because the two sports are so different in the accolades. But, you know, what amazes me is how both guys have become so predictable. I mean, you almost expect Tobias Harris not to show up in a game, especially a big game. And Castellanos, you almost, unless he's on a hot streak, you can expect that he's going to swing out of the strike zone at every pitch, first pitch. And if he comes up, I mean, for a while, it was like Sosa. You know what I mean? We expect him to strike out every time he comes up. You hate to see him. You hate to see Rojas come up to bat with anybody in scoring position. I mean, this is a guy we paid a lot of money. I don't dislike him. I don't dislike Tobias Harris. You know what I mean? I just think these guys I think Castellanos can find
They
his
get
way.
paid, and then you expect them to play to a certain level. And we appreciate the call, T-Love. Welcome back. You expect them at some point to play up to the contracts, and sometimes that just doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
And that's what sucks, right? I mean, that's the risk that you take when you sign a player, especially to big money like that. But I don't think Nick Castellanos is a bum. Like, I don't think what we have seen, and I say 1.5 seasons because I think last year was a good year. I know he had a rough stretch after the All-Star game.
Year last year.
No, and then he caught fire again in September and then into the playoffs. It wasn't just the playoffs. He caught fire toward the end of the season. I think Nick Castellanos is ultimately a very good baseball player. It has been unfortunate that it has not amounted to the contract that the Phillies have paid him, but I don't think this is who he is. I still think he will be able to go on those tears.
Okay.
The tear that he goes on will be better than any tear that Johan Rojas goes
I hope he
on.
does. He's had a better June than Schwarber and a better June than Bohm.
And you expect Schwarber to
and I have
expect Bohm to bounce
I have
back.
zero concern about either one of them.
Right.
Castellanos I have the most concern about.
Okay.
But he's had a better June.
Yes.
So that's the way I look at it.
And I expect those numbers to go up as the season goes on. All right, coming up next, John told me about, so Connor, you haven't heard this yet.
It's a moral dilemma.
John told me about a moral dilemma that he knows that somebody's going through right now. And we have to talk about this, and hopefully we can give some answers.
I've always got answers.
This one's a tough one.
They might not be the right ones.
This one is a tough one. And we'll get to more text and call reaction to our topics on hand today. You can climb in at 610-632-0975. But this is a huge moral dilemma, like a huge moral dilemma.
And I have to hear Cooney's answer on it, too.
Oh,
when
during
we do
our
the crossover.
Absolutely. It's Kincade and Salciunas right here, 97.5 The Fanatic. 97.5 The Fanatic. We've had a bunch of topics today, but we're going to get into something.
It's been a wild day today.
It has been.
A lot of animated discussion from listeners. Otherwise, it's been fun.
It's a beautiful day. I mean, look,
it's gorgeous.
I mean, it's a nice day. I mean, there's still people that are having issue with not understanding comparisons, but that's okay. You yourself included,
exactly.
You can't understand.
You've been so clear this
comparisons.
75 degrees and sunny today.
That's a beautiful day.
Are you kidding me?
All right, so you have a moral dilemma. And this is
I don't.
one.
Now make this clear.
Okay, sorry.
Because I don't want anybody thinking it's me.
Right. I need you, and I need the audience to chime in here on the text line at 610-632-0975. So have your phones ready, and Connor, make sure you refresh that text app right away.
Okay.
Because we have a moral dilemma that John's going to bring up now.
I would like to tell you that a friend of mine is going through this right now. And they are the friend that I will speak of that has this going on. And they are tuned in right now.
Okay.
To hear what we all say on it. Grandma and Grandpa died.
And
their family home was the same family home for 47 years.
Okay.
The grandchildren, 3 of them, separated the furniture, and their parents inherited the money. Their parents inherited money from the grandparents.
Yeah.
The children were each, like, everything in the house was split between the kids. They could take some jewelry, they could take some furniture, they could take some, and they all decided to split it up.
Ask a question before you go on. The person listening, is this a parent or one of the children?
No, this is one of the children.
All right, so this is one of the grandchildren.
Grandchildren. So the grandchildren were invited to clear out the house. Mom and dad have a house that's already furnished, everything. They don't need it. They didn't want it. So anything you wanted from Grandma and Grandpa's house, you could take.
Okay.
And the 3 children all were there together and decided, I want this part, I want this part. All had to get movers, all had to get to do it. My friend took a dresser.
Okay.
And underneath the dresser, underneath the bottom drawer of the dresser, which wouldn't close right.
Okay.
There were 2 manila envelopes with $10,313 in it. Now, that's an odd number, but this person gave me the exact total. $10,313 in 2 giant manila envelopes that obviously one of the grandparents, and it most likely was the grandfather because he worked and Grandma didn't.
Okay.
That he was having, a rainy day fund or something and stuffing away money. He took that piece of thing, and neither of the other kids wanted it. Does he owe his other 2 siblings a share of the $10,313, or should he be just quiet and keep it for himself?
Let me say this. He does not owe anyone anything.
He does not.
He does not owe.
I think legally he does not.
No, exactly.
Because they all could have taken that piece of furniture.
Right.
And the other 2 purposely didn't want this piece of furniture. They thought it was just like ugly or something.
Okay.
That's all I will tell you about it.
I will say this because I'm a fair guy, right? Finders keepers, but it's also your siblings.
But you're not bringing it up. The siblings have no idea, and the siblings would never be listening to our show.
But here's what my opinion, right? It's a gift from Grandma and Grandpa. But you keep a large sum of it because I'm guessing that dresser would have been thrown out.
The dresser would have been thrown out.
Like if nobody picked it.
By the way, half the furniture in the home, half the stuff in the home was donated, cleared out of the house, and donated to a Catholic Charities.
So that priest better start looking at this.
So they got to, it might happen. So how would you treat it with your siblings?
I would keep 5 and then split the other 5 for the other 2. He has 2 siblings?
He has 2 siblings, and by the way, they get along. They get along.
Okay, then they even more so.
But they have no idea this happened.
Would you share with your brother, Connor?
Perfectly even split.
I wouldn't do even split.
Why not?
I found the money. This money would have gone into the trash.
It would have gone into the trash. No, or it might have went to Catholic Charities.
Right.
And now they're wondering, just this one sibling is wondering, did either of the others find stuff?
Well, that can't be your concern, I guess.
Right, it can't be.
But, Connor, you say right away you would go.
Immediately.
You'd pick up the phone, you'd call your brother and go, guess what I found?
Yeah.
Now, question is, would you feel the obligation to share it with your parents? By the way, there's only one kid. There's only one parent that's involved. His mother, the mother of this, does not have siblings.
I wouldn't share it with the parents.
So would you then share it with your parent too?
I would take the parents out to like a dinner or something. A nice dinner. And pay with the cat.
Connor, your answer is the least surprising thing to me. I would absolutely believe Connor. I believe Connor would do that 100%, and I believe he wouldn't hesitate 100%. I know that I would stew on this. I know I would stew on this decision.
I had this happen. Like,
you did?
Not exactly this, but when my grandmother passed away, her house sold. Part of it was going to go to, like, part of the profits for that were going to my brother and I through my mom. And there was a conversation about how much goes to who, depending on how much my brother and I make right now. This was a couple years ago, so radio, when you get started,
gotcha.
You don't make a lot of money. And so my mom and brother were like, do you want a bigger split of it? I said, no, split it evenly right down the middle. I would always split it evenly.
Yeah, but that makes more sense. You didn't find cash.
You didn't find it.
Like,
yeah,
I would say this doesn't even relate to that.
I was offered to get more money from a past grandparent, and I said, no, even split, not doing it.
And again, least surprising thing to me in the world, knowing you. That doesn't surprise me because that is Connor's character. On and off air.
He's saying I got bad character.
No, I'm going to tell you that I'd be torn. I'm a little torn.
Like, if
about what I do.
All right, so 10 grand. It's just me and my sister. I'd take 65%. She's still getting a couple thousands of dollars.
Would you tell your sibling, because here's the follow-up question that I am allowed to throw out there.
Okay.
Would you tell your sibling
that I kept more?
Yes.
Probably not.
Okay.
Because I would feel weird.
So would you tell your sibling that you split it? Because that has been asked of me.
Yes.
Would you? Okay, but then, because by the way,
she still got $3,000. I'm not going to cry that I kept $7,000.
I did not give Andrew the answer to this when I did it. This person's response is they think they're going to give their sibling $3,000. They're going to give their sibling $3,000, and they're
keeping
between the
7.
two. No, they're going to split
3 and 3, and he's keeping 4.
No, $1,500.
Oh, well, that's what my initial answer was. I would keep a larger percentage, but still give them. Look,
they're going to give me each
$1,500 is a big deal,
and that's what he's thinking.
Out of nowhere.
That's what he thinks he's going to go $1,500. By the way,
hey, here's your next 6 grocery runs.
He says, "Do you think that the siblings, as in this, do you think the siblings will ask? So you found $4,500, or do you think they'll ask, how much did you find?"
I don't know that they'll ask. I think, like, if they have a good relationship with each other, they probably won't question it.
Yeah.
Like,
they get along. Is how it was described is the siblings get along.
Yeah.
I don't think they're that close, but they get along. It's just an interesting question. I like hearing that answers, though. I expected Connor to have his answer.
Here's why. Like, put yourself in the siblings' perspective. It's not so much they're entitled to that money, right?
Right.
I don't think there's anyone in the situation truly entitled to it. I think it's just a stroke of luck.
They would have already had the money.
Right.
If they were entitled, like the grandparents would have probably already been like, here, we're nearing the end.
Right. I think it's a stroke of luck. But how cool would it be if after getting the furniture, like your sister called you or my brother called me and they're like, yo, by the way, found $10,000. Take your cut of it. How awesome would that be for everyone involved? You found money that you weren't expecting.
Found $10,000 and
do you think?
I would probably say, all right, why don't you keep 6 of it?
I know that.
I'll still let her have the majority of it because she's the one that found it, and I would have allowed that piece of furniture to go. I am somebody that wants to get rid of everything. I'm already itching to get rid of Cooper's stuff, like a lot of his baby stuff. Okay, so like I would throw things out. I would not keep things. And so I would then give her the credit for being the reason why we even found it, and that money is not in the cash or at the church.
I know that my brother would absolutely do what Connor said. I, with 100% knowledge, know that my brother would do what Connor said.
Here's the thing. And I think this might, to bring this back around, tell me a little bit about who I am as a sports fan. I think even is oftentimes better than fair. There are times where fair would lead to one person getting more than the other because of circumstances.
Right, exactly.
And
They found it.
Right.
That
would be totally fair for them to keep more of the money, I think. But I like even over that.
Okay. That's very nice of you. What's your answer? Have we even gotten your answer?
I would
keep it all.
No, I would not, because I would the guilt that I would feel.
Guilt. Oh, dude,
guilt, Connor, the guilt would eat me up. I would absolutely, after much contemplation, split it.
I believe you. Yeah.
I would, but I wouldn't come to that answer like you
right
come
away.
to it.
You came to it right away.
I would be doing the mental gymnastics of, what should I do?
All right, has anything come in on the text line real quick, because I know we only have time like one. Did anyone, whatever the first answer is on the text line, I want them, that's what your friend should do.
All right, Josh Sass from the YouTube chat says, let me scroll down to this. When someone hands you $1,500, you don't question it. You just say thank you, LOL. So
yeah, exactly.
So what he's planning on doing then, that tells him. So you've just heard, and I know the person's listening right now, you just heard, $1,500, keep the rest.
Keep the rest.
And that's not being.
And I think percentage-wise, he should keep the majority of it. He's the one that took the furniture.
Absolutely.
And that would have just gone in the trash. Nobody would have even known about the money if he didn't keep it.
Correct.
And I think he should keep. That's my answer from the very beginning. How about that, Connor? You're more moral than all of us, I guess. All right, coming up next, it's our crosser with Bob Cooney. Before that, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3 best minutes from today's show. Coming up next, Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Bob Cooney.
Look, I think it's easy that we've all come to the conclusion
Salciunas. We have our crossover with one Bob Cooney coming up in a few minutes, but it's time now for the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3.
Now, the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3. Today's best.
So our question today, why do we like who we like and dislike who we dislike? Like, what makes us like a player? What makes us dislike a player? I don't have dislike for Nick Castellanos. I dislike that he's batting .215. Like, damn, I wish he was hitting better than .215. But, like, the attitude thing, I see why it bothers people. It doesn't necessarily bug me. I think my biggest issue with him is to what you have said. When it seems like he's in a slump, I don't know what he's doing to get out of the slump. Like, the NLCS, my biggest beef with him, it looked like he tried hitting a home run every single swing, and I can say that because his helmet kept flying off, right? Like, that to me is a telltale sign when a guy's pulling out every single time and the helmet is flying off, falling onto the ground, he's catching the helmet. That means he's just swinging for the fences every single pitch, and he was not changing his approach to the plate. But other than that, I don't have a personal beef with Nick Castellanos. I've actually had the chance to talk to him. He seems like a good guy. He's a great dad, all that kind of stuff.
If you have a personal beef with Nick Castellanos, I don't understand, but it's absolutely understandable why somebody would be like, I don't like this guy's act. I don't like his act. To me, that's my issue with Nick Castellanos, is that he says he doesn't want to do the work that other players do to get out of slumps.
We're in a weird place with the Sixers. You and I had a very interesting conversation with somebody 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And that person was confused by the reaction to when the Sixers were eliminated by the New York Knicks. That person was
very confused.
Very confused. They thought that there would be more pushback, more outrage, more pitchforks and torches toward the Sixers. Instead, there was a lot of positive reaction, and we kind of did it on the show, right? Like what we saw out of Joel Embiid in this playoff series. First time we've been able to really say that.
I saw a different Joel Embiid than I've seen in previous playoff series.
Absolutely.
And so I sort of took that as a win, but I think apathy has set in.
But the person we spoke to basically was confused by the lack of the negative reaction.
Was expecting vitriol that they didn't.
You have said this multiple times in the year. You've called me out on it, and it's absolutely accurate. That we like who we like and we don't like who we don't like, right?
Yeah.
And
we're going to defend who we like,
yes.
who we defended in the past. We will bend over backwards and do mental gymnastics to try to not admit that our position maybe needs to be moved a bit.
I do that a lot of the times with Joel Embiid.
We all do it.
A lot of Eagles fans do it with Jalen Hurts. Yeah.
Nobody's blameless with this. We all do it, especially in this job.
So, like who you like, don't like who you don't like. And I think the prime example of don't like who you don't like is Nick Castellanos for a lot of people.
For a lot of people,
there are
right.
a lot of people that just don't rock with Nick Castellanos unless he's hitting a home run after home run after home run like he did last year in the NLDS, and then his first at bat in the NLCS, and then of course he went goose egg the rest of the way. But I don't think Philadelphia fans collectively love Nick Castellanos, whether it's the attitude. You know,
I don't think they like him, let alone love him. I don't think they really like him.
It's weird. It is a weird relationship.
I don't believe he was trying to be a jackass. Like, I don't think he was trying to be rude to Nick, but I don't think he knows how to say something nice about the guy.
Right, and that
I don't
tells
think he
you that there's still maybe an issue between the two of them.
I believe there
and that's what I'm basically getting at here. Like, that's why I'm asking: are we overreacting to it, or is this a legitimate concern to hear another chance for the franchise quarterback to have the back of the coach? Because the coach said the back of his. We know that the Seattle thing. We know that the coach had Jalen Hurts' back.
Nick Sirianni has been a kinder individual to Jalen Hurts than Jalen Hurts has been to Nick Sirianni.
At least publicly.
No Sixers fan can say to me, well, I'm excited for the future. Because you have no idea what the future is. Because they don't have a roster. You have no idea what's going to happen.
Right, but the future is around Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey.
Right.
That's the future.
No.
As long as they can get the right pieces, and I know we haven't really seen that, but as long as they can get the right pieces around them, you finally saw Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid uplift their game. And so,
but you just said it.
Yeah, they have.
But we haven't seen that.
We haven't seen it.
Like, people were telling me they're all excited about the future. I'm going, well, let me see who the roster is before you tell me you're excited. In other words, you're just being blindly loyal. Oh, yeah, I'm excited about the future. Why? Who are they getting?
All right, that's the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3. Listen, Connor, we're solving life problems in here, man. All right?
Honestly, it's like an episode of Dr. Phil today, which is good, though.
For all kinds of things. Can you ask Bob Cooney? Bob, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, how are you, boys?
It's crossover time.
Everything good?
Can you ask Bob Cooney the moral dilemma?
I'll ask you quickly.
Oh.
A friend, Grandma and Grandpa died. They cleared out Grandma and Grandpa's house. 3 grandchildren were in there, and they could have anything they wanted in the house. One of the siblings took home a piece of furniture that had $10,300 in it.
Wow.
Well, and the other 2 siblings do not know.
Oh, yeah, you split it up.
You split it
Evenly?
evenly?
Yeah.
That's the least surprising thing. I knew you'd answer it like Connor.
yeah.
My
Absolutely.
reaction was I'd keep a little bit more of a cut because if it wasn't for me, that money's in the trash.
Nah. You
He
do
didn't
the honest
hesitate.
thing. Yeah.
Bob didn't hesitate at
See,
all.
it's just
Connor
me and my
didn't
sister.
hesitate at all.
It's just me and my sister. I would have kept 6. She would have gotten 4.
No, it's
got a
so
larger
funny you
sum.
guys bring this up because this weekend my two sisters and I were in a text and they were going back and forth with stuff that they were finding, like pictures of my dad and I remember this piece of jewelry that mom gave me and all that, and they're going back and forth, and I said, I got a beer mug. I literally, John just spit out his drink. So
I'm not shocked by the beer mug.
My brother, who has passed, took over their house, and there were some things but whatever. When we went for a day to clean out the house and stuff, I literally was given a copper beer mug. My dad had 2. One went to my nephew, who's my godchild, and one went to me. And I said that to my sisters. I said, "Yeah, I got a beer mug," and they went silent on me. So I think I pissed them off a little bit. So don't ever expect things. If you get something, share the wealth. Andrew.
By the way, speaking of looking through old pictures, my mom showed me a picture of my uncle who passed away 10 years ago now. So God rest his soul. When he was 2.
When he was 2,
looks identical to Cooper.
See
Is that right,
dude? Like,
now that's weird because when I see Cooper, I see your wife.
Dude, I gotta,
I
gotta show you that. No, I do too, but I gotta show you this picture. They're the same person.
How about that?
That's wild.
And it's my uncle. Weird. I know it's genetics and it's family and all that kind of stuff, but dude, honestly, it was weird. It was kind of scary.
I have an instance like that, but it's a longer story. I'll tell you guys off air.
Well, we'll be listening at 10
crazy.
o'clock. What do you got on the show today?
A lot of good talk today. Tom McCarthy's going to join us fresh off the plane from England. He'll join us at noon today.
Nice.
Let us know. I'm anxious to hear behind the scenes, like what went on. Look, I can live with the 1-1 split. I think it was a good time had by all, and that's a bonding thing. Not that this team maybe needed it, but it was something I think enjoyable for them. But we'll talk to Tom about that.
What was your first reaction to the final play yesterday?
It sucks,
Thank you. I put out that
all.
tweet, and it was Castellanos hate.
It was a great play.
I know he put the ball in play poorly.
Exploded. Yeah, he's swinging at everything. My son's reaction, who's a huge Phillies fan, the out's made. He's like, go, and slams the door and walks out of the house. And I looked at it, I was thinking, I was like, I bet you that's a lot of people's reaction right now.
But my first reaction was hell of a play by the it was a great play by the
That's a great play.
We all want Castellanos to hit better, and it looks like he's bringing it up a little bit.
He is.
He's swinging at everything, so there's got to be a medium there, right? Hopefully he hits it. If that average, look, if he becomes a 240, 250 hitter this year, that's like 280 for the rest of the year. So, we'll see. I have no complaints about this weekend at all, except yesterday took too long. That game was way too long, and it kind of ruined the morning a little bit because they lost the game.
Maybe it had more to do with the London pop and circumstances. I don't know.
I thought it was really cool.
No, it was, but do you think the game went longer because of all this?
I don't know what it was. It was a lot of pitching changes.
Commercial time.
That might be part of it.
They get
just
extra
weird.
networks.
All right, we'll be listening.
All right, boys. Good job, Bobby. Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Join us and our generous partner, the Davis CPA Group. Hey, Ron. Make a donation to the American Association for Cancer Research. You can do it at 975thefanatic.com/AACR because I'm living proof 3 times over that cancer research saves lives.
All right, everybody, have a great rest of your Monday. Don't forget 3 o'clock, major station announcement with Tyrone Johnson, not with Bob Cooney. But you got 4 hours of Bob Cooney coming your way next. It's